Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Packed show this week. A lot of guests joining me this week. Ladies first, Gail Falcon, Communities Digital News, joins us live from Miss Wet, Che Deal, T Street from the YouTube boxing community fame, Jacob Rivera, Daniel Carpio, and new to the show, first time on the show, Michael Boyce, a longtime follower, longtime fan of Pound for Pound Boxing Report on Twitter. What's going on, ladies and gents?
Hey, good evening. We got a lot to talk about tonight.
What's going on?
Hello.
And I see Ben Duomar stop by as well. What's going on, Ben?
What's up, Mike?
What's going on?
I got one correction. He called me
T. I'm sorry.
A lot of people do that. But I do call the radio the boxing voice, and a lot of y'all probably know Scorsese, so that's me.
Scorsese. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Yeah, it happened all the time.
For those who do Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report is a live YouTube show as well as podcast and blog. Find more information about Pound for Pound Boxing Report. One place you want to go to, that's the blog page, P4P Boxing Report blog page, P4PBoxingRPT.wordpress.com is the link. You check the right of the page, you can find all the links to find us all over social media, all over the interwebs. Links to find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr. We got a Pinterest board. Check out the RSS feed if you want to subscribe there. Also, links to check us out on Stitcher Radio, Flipboard Magazine, SoundCloud, iTunes, as well as the email address, which is p4pboxingrpt@gmail.com. Let's get the show started tonight, folks. Recapping what happened this weekend and throughout this week. I want to go in a different route here. Huge upset, to quote Donald Trump. Huge upset that took place yesterday in Japan. Long-reigning WBA champion Takashi Uchiyama had his title reign come to a sudden end, getting destroyed by Jezreel Corrales in round 2. He got knocked down 3 times in the second round. Starting you ladies first, go to you, Gail. Wow, was you as surprised, I should say, as most folks were when you heard this stunning result?
And then some, no question. Now I woke up to this on the West Coast, and it was one of the first headlines I saw, thanks to overnight reports from some of the panelists here, including you. And I think the first words out of my mouth, that next morning were, "Holy shit," or something equally as profound. I mean, it was just an unthinkable result. Unthinkable. And then when I went back and looked at the fight, which I didn't have a chance to do for a few hours, I just honestly sat here in stunned silence, because not only did he lose, he lost badly. He got a beat down. He seemed to be a deer in the headlights from the minute of the opening bell. Absolutely incredible, and it just proves to you that any given contest can pull some surprises, no matter how deep the odds are against somebody. Anyone can have a bad day, and anyone that is underrated can have a good day. And Corrales did a stunning job. He was aggressive, he was accurate, and he was fast. And Uchiyama seemed completely unprepared for him. And I haven't heard any post-mortem from the boxing media in Japan yet, but I'd love to know how in the world he explains his performance. I really do. But no disrespect to Corrales. He was superb.
I want to go to you, Scorsese, and you, Michael, since it's the first time you're on the show. Not just the surprise, but a lot of folks within the YTBC in the aftermath was, I don't know if glee is the wrong word, but they found some joy, because the complaint about Uchiyama was that, yes, he's been a long-time champion, but he's been defending multiple title defenses, but they were a bit annoyed that he basically hid the belt in Japan, fighting exclusively in Japan, really didn't fight nobody in their opinion, wouldn't go abroad to defend his title. So talk about the fight itself, and talk about some of the criticism laid down towards Uchiyama after the fight. First you, Scorsese, and then you, Michael.
I don't get Uchiyama. He let Bob Arum sell him that Nicholas Walters was a huge fight, in the United States, and then we see how Bob Arum lowballs Nicholas Walters to fight Lomachenko. So where's this huge fight at? Uchiyama had agreed, yeah, we can fight in the U.S. Then he tells Fortuna, we agreed that we won't fight in the U.S. What are you doing? Neither one of these guys are. Look, this is the best division where the champion could have got overthrown. It's the best one of the best at least. That division's so hot. I talked about it when we were off air. They got Lomachenko there. They got Walters there. They got the cheater Vargas there, possible cheater. They got Salido who beat Lomachenko. They got my man Javier Fortuna there.
Rocky Martinez as well.
Yeah, Rocky Martinez. Possible even Felix Verdejo there. It's one of the hottest divisions in boxing.
Especially in the what's the guy name? Trouble. The tall dude who recently won.
Broner's friend.
Yeah.
Gosh, no, he's 135. 135, I believe.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I believe he's 135. But to the fight.
Talking about Easter?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, to the fight. What's to discuss? 2 rounds of him getting dominated. 2 rounds of him being the slower fighter. He's always been flat-footed, had a lot of power in both hands. But I told people, when I heard Fortuna versus Uchiyama, I said, who does he find, no disrespect, who does he find in Japan to look like Javier Fortuna? Who in the world is he going to find there? So he was losing either way. I didn't know Corrales, but I'm glad I do now. You know, I take him over Uchiyama any day. He got dominated. He got timed up. He got hit with pretty much any shot the guy wanted to throw. He moved around the ring brilliantly. He dominated this dude. He dominated him. He went from a 15-1 underdog to, I believe, a 5-1 underdog right before start time. So a lot of people got paid out this cat, man. And Uchiyama and him, Fortuna and Corrales should be around the corner.
Your thoughts, Michael?
I totally went out. Well, thanks to you for once I saw that tweet out that Uchiyama 2 rounds, I had to check that out immediately. And then what Sister Gail said from the opening round, opening bell, I mean, he threw that left, and he was in that left was pushing him to the end of the first round, but he hit him with that solid left. He was in world of trouble then. And then you already know from that second round, the 3 knockdowns, and what's surprising for me was the stadium was in complete shock and total silence. Yet normally when you see a knockdown, regardless if it was on home turf or not, you would hear something, but complete silence from that Japanese crowd, and that was definitely, to your point, brother Mike, surprise knockout of the year so far. It was a great fight. To everyone's point, I want to fight with Corrales and Fortuna.
I'm gonna go to you, Dill, and then you, Jacob and Daniel. Unmute your mic, Dill. Uchiyama has a way of kind of taking his time, surveying the scene, if you will, before he really strikes. Corrales didn't give him that. He kind of swarmed him with almost a Mayorga effect, except cleaner in terms of his footwork and his punches. Didn't give him a chance to really set things up. He found the range with that left hand early in the first round, and then you can tell when round 2 began, he did a thing where he let Uchiyama lead with the right, or even with the right especially, and then he would counter. Let Uchiyama lead and then counter. That's how he got that first knockdown, and he just really followed up with that. So talk about the fight itself, your impressions of Uchiyama before and after the fight, and the level of surprise in terms of Corrales and how he really dominated Uchiyama.
First and foremost, thanks for having me.
No problem.
Second, wow, boxing is transitioning this year. And third, this is Uchiyama, the way he fought last night, it looked like he never fought a southpaw before. He's used to orthodox fighters, and staying in Japan with that type of domestic competition to support competition. He fights somebody that's game and live in his worldly rank. and they come to his spot, and they got some athleticism for a southpaw, but a switch fighter, because at times Corrales was fighting orthodox and southpaw, just switching up, giving different looks. And like you said, he timed Uchiyama's on counters, and just threw wild looping left hands, and Uchiyama kept on getting caught with that left hand, and it was just at certain spots you saw the explosion. And Uchiyama looked like he could have gotten up and still fought the fight. It's just that it was just embarrassing. He looked lost. He looked like he could adjust to that left hand. It looked like he's not used to southpaw, so maybe that style is the style that he's weak into. And I wonder how he would have gone against Fortuna and guys like that. You know, guys who might not have big accolades or nothing like that, but I just wonder how he would fight guys with athletic styles in the division. And then my other question is, would you rank Uchiyama's reign almost as equivalent to Chris John's? And
No.
he just lost to like a Simpiwe Yeka type of guy?
Still no, because Chris John still has that win. He still has that win over Marquez.
Even though that wasn't convincing, but
He still got it though. It's better than Uchiyama any win on Uchiyama's record.
You know, I agree with you, but you know, John went back to his country and protected his belt as long as he could. But you know,
and plus, you got to remember, I talked about the criticism of Uchiyama not coming to the States. At least John did.
You know, to finish and wrap this up and give the mic to someone else, I'm glad that Corrales made a name for himself. Now we get to talk about another fight at 130. We really don't talk much about 130 because the guy, Uchiyama, don't want to risk anything. But we keep on hearing, yeah, but the king of 130 is Uchiyama. But we were like, then 130 ain't shit because the guy at 130 don't want to do shit. So, and plus, a lot of guys who do go to 130 really transition to 135, 140, and possibly eventually get into 147 where the money be. So, 130, unless you willing to fight in Japan, is just not a strong suit for 126 fighters, 122 fighters, and yada yada. But great win for Corrales. I want to see him in Fortuna next. And this is good for boxing. This is good talk and discussion with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Fortuna, you know, the convoluted ranking systems of the WBA. Fortuna also has a WBA belt, and while Corrales, I think he may have been an interim champion, something to that effect. But yeah, that would be a good fight. Similar styles, really. Both are fast, both are southpaws, both can be kind of wild in their approach. But yeah, it'd be like fighting a mirror image of each other, really. I'll go to Daniel and then Jacob. I see EJ Boxing Live has joined us, as well as Francis of Joe and Joe from Fort Boxing News. First, Daniel and Jacob, talk quickly about this upset in Japan with Uchiyama going down, and then you can follow up Francis and Joe and then EJ.
Oh man, to think that this could have been Uchiyama Walters, that's the big issue.
And it should have been.
It really should have been, because that fight, to let's say to T's credit, was out there, but the WBA somehow found some religion in trying to consolidate some of their belts, and this is the fight they ordered. And now we have a situation where you have Uchiyama, who was 35 years old, apparently was already talking about retirement, and ultimately might have been retired by Corrales in this fight, because first I didn't even know there was a 3 knockdown rule, because that's what happened. To me, he probably could have gotten a little bit of a rest for that minute between rounds and try to find a different way to win, but after the 3rd knockdown, the referee said it was over.
I don't think it would have mattered, Daniel. He couldn't find the answers with that left hand.
Or yeah, it would have ended sooner. That's true. But oh Jesus, this is just one of those things that when you have to look at it, Corrales made a name for himself. First of all, in was technically supposed to be hostile territory in Japan, but that crowd was completely silent. Now, I know Japanese fans, they're still trying to get acclimated to the culture of actually being a sports fan, so I'm not surprised that they're stunned, but wow. To have one of their longtime champions go down that way when he didn't even make one appearance in the U.S. He was supposed to, but he didn't make one appearance in the U.S. And now there's a very, very good chance that he's not going to. So what can you say about the situation? That Corrales made himself up. He did what he was supposed to do. He went to hostile territory. He took on the champion. And yeah, I think he was the WBA interim champion coming into it. And got himself the legit belt. And now Javier Fortuna waits. And I want to see that fight. That's what I want to see right now.
Jacob, and then Francis and Joe as well as I see EJ dropped out, but first Jacob, and then Francis and Joe from Full Boxing. Can't hear you, Jacob. I think Jacob may have some mic issues right quick, so I'll go to Francis and Joe.
I mean, there's not much more to say. I mean, it was surprising.
Okay, Jacob. Jacob, you got some mic issues going on, so I'm gonna mute you right now, and go to Francis and Joe from Full Boxing. Your level of shock here in terms of what went down with Uchiyama losing.
I was incredibly shocked. I really couldn't believe. Uchiyama's performance, considering that he has the record of a knockout artist, 24 wins, 20 knockouts until this first loss, this very shocking loss. There were just so many things going on. I think the big thing was, first of all, that Corrales was such a wild puncher, and it looked like he wasn't accustomed to being able to deal with that. In addition to Corrales being a southpaw, and then also doing the whole shoulder roll defense and being able to keep that distance. From Uchiyama, and Uchiyama didn't look like he wanted to, really take the risk of trying to go in, get around the shoulder roll defense because he was just so stunned with that big shot at the end of the first round. And with the shoulder roll defense, I mean, you can't keep that distance. You've got to be able to go to the body, take some risks, eat some punches going in, and just be a huge volume puncher. And that's how you beat the shoulder roll defense. But it didn't look like Uchiyama was willing to take the risk any longer, because I think he was so hurt in round one that the second round, I think he just didn't know what to do. I think he was just trying to survive. But those wild punches, they paid off. I honestly thought Corrales looked a little bit sloppy in the second round, but they paid off. So, I mean, I'm incredibly shocked. I was incredibly shocked because Corrales, he doesn't really have the record of being a big knockout artist, but what a performance, hands down.
Yeah, and I think it's good for the sport too, because boxing is different than other sports in that one punch can win you a fight. And we were coming off a weekend where Golovkin and Chocolatito both had fights, and everybody knew they were going to win. So it's nice to see an upset come and a big star. It's at the hands of Uchiyama that he takes the loss. But I think upsets are good for boxing. It gets people talking. It keeps the fights interesting, and to me, that's what's great about boxing.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to you, Scorsese. I'll mute your mic, bro.
Yeah, I'm here.
With this win in a relatively weak 130-pound division, we mentioned Francisco Vargas, and we got some breaking news coming up coming up. Roman Gonzalez, Fortuna. Do you think this could possibly put him at the top of the 130-pound landscape, given how much the way he dominated Uchiyama?
Like it or not, he's the ring champion. To me, at least. That's a very hard question because you have to punish Vargas if what's true is true about him. Miura do you punish Miura for losing to a drug cheat? You can't really give it to Fortuna because he hasn't had the shot. Um, that's a tough question. Can he beat a lot of them? What I saw last night, he's gonna be a tough competitor. My guy's Fortuna, and I am very interested in that fight. I think that's a closer fight than Fortuna had with Uchiyama. Uh, I'm kind of in fear for him a little bit, man. I just can't believe a guy with, I think he had 21 wins, 1 loss, and 8 KOs. I just cannot believe. It's just shocking that he went over there and dropped and stopped uh, a ring champion. I'm not even sure Fortuna was the ring champion, but I know he was the ring #1, so he's basically the ring champion. So I don't know yet. There's some more to be dug in that division, more digging to do.
I want to move on and talk about the big weekend, the big fights this weekend. Doubleheader on HBO, Gennady Golovkin beating Dominic Wade, Chocolatito Gonzalez defeating McWilliams Arroyo. Start with Golovkin first off, and I will go to you on this one, Dill. Look, Triple G did what he had to do. Unmute your mic, Dill. I'm sorry. Okay, he got the win. He had the crowd buzzing. But I got nothing from this. Absolutely nothing. The question for me is, will we finally see him and Canelo? Because, okay, he's fighting these guys, which we know he's going to dominate. I need something more. I need Canelo. I need Jacobs. I need something else.
Okay. This is why it's hard for me to want to make Golovkin like a pound-for-pound guy, because he's benefited in a weak division. I mean, we get on Vlad for years about being a weak division. Well, the middleweight division is full of parity, let's be honest. And even the guys that were in there before Golovkin, I mean, Sergio Martinez, not a real welterweight. I mean, a real welterweight dominated that division. So I'm just saying, like, that fight bored the fuck out of me because I knew the outcome. I knew, and I hate to say anything can happen in boxing, but this was a mismatch. I didn't care if Wade was undefeated. I just didn't see the tools. He got hard. He fought hard. But Golovkin just, Golovkin showed he got a chin in this fight. I will say that, but I think Golovkin was just trying to carry Wade, make it an interesting fight, and just bring the fight to the fans. But overall, Golovkin do need a name because he's not getting any younger. It's time to go for greatness and not go for mandatories. So either he calls Canelo bluff and stop getting paid off so Canelo could take other fights, which is some bitch-ass shit for Canelo to do, to pay a man to get off his back. That is some bitch-ass shit, but at the same time, Golovkin needs to make something happen, and I blame it on his management. But then again, I think Golovkin is kind of stupid for taking these payoffs. First from Cotto, Martinez, Canelo possibly. I just think the WBC just needs to make Golovkin fight for that title. Oscar's full of shit. And everybody's politicking for Canelo not to fight Golovkin. So Golovkin needs to eventually just fight Danny Jacobs, win that fight. That'll be an interesting fight, though. Then eventually fight Joe Saunders and win that fight. And then by next year, if Canelo ain't about that shit, just move up to 168 and fight some names who are willing to fight you and create and keep pushing your legacy. But right now, keep fighting Dominic Wade type fighters. We're just going to get bored by that shit. It's just another display. And I shouldn't be talking like this by someone as skillful as Triple G. Triple G is a great fighter. It's just the competition it doesn't equate to how good he is. And plus, we want to see him in there with a rival. To measure your greatness as a fighter, you need a rival. In this division, who is really going to be a rival of Golovkin? I would have said 2012, 2011 would be Dmitry Pyrock, but Pyrock got injured with back injuries and shit like that, so that never happened. So Golovkin is just a man on a mission, but he's on his own. until he feels like being gone from that division. That's all.
Well, I do think that Golovkin is one of the best fighters in the world. I have him in my pound for pound top 5, and I'll go to you on this one, Daniel, and then you can follow up, Gail. But Dale is right in one assessment. Look, if Canelo Alvarez is messing around with you, or Canelo's handlers, Golden Boy namely, and don't want to fight you, it seems, and given all these fight at this weight, which is bull. There are other avenues for Triple G, even in a middleweight division, which is full of parity, as Dill put it that way. As Dill put it, parity is another way of just saying an average division. It's called out for what it is. You mentioned Saunders. You mentioned Jacobs. Chris Eubank Jr. is out there as well. One thing I know is the Dominic Wades and the Willie Monroes and all these other fighters, it does nothing for me. It moves me not one bit. I mean, even Max Kellerman after the fight said Triple G's fought no one. So, as I said to Dill, I need something more, damn it. And then you can follow up, Gail.
All right. Well, Kellerman also said something pretty interesting when it came to Triple G as far as what the attraction is. He started comparing Triple G to Mike Tyson, early Mike Tyson. And because what do we like to see about early Mike Tyson? We just like to see Mike knock people the fuck out, to be honest. And that's pretty much what people are just doing to Triple G. We just want to watch Triple G knock somebody out. Now, like, the fight we all knew was going to be a bloodbath. We knew Triple G was going to finish him off quick. I give credit to Wade. He did a lot more than Marco Antonio Rubio did after the second round. He actually got up and actually tried to fight.
Yeah, so Rubio did quit. You're right about that.
Yeah, so I'll give Dominic Wade credit for that. And I love the Triple G post-fight press conference, talking Spanish, thanking the fans in Spanish, and then laying out when he said talking about Canelo, he just said, "Just give me my belt." He just said straight up, "Just give me my belt." And like I said it on Sunday with Joe and Francis. I said, I hope Canelo then in 2 weeks from now, really after he beats the crap out of Amir Khan, goes and sees Triple G, because Triple G is going to be there at the T-Mobile Arena, and says, "All right, you want my belt? You take it from me in September." But a lot of the issues that you brought up are true. As much as Canelo wants this fight, Golden Boy's the one that probably doesn't want the fight right now. And the options for Triple G are, well, the WBA actually announced yesterday that if Triple G Canelo does not happen next, they will order Triple G Danny Jacobs. So that's been a fight that's been 2 years in the making, because that's been how long Danny Jacobs has been the mandatory for Triple G. And, well, we all know in reality Billy Joe Saunders is never going to fight Triple G. He's just going to stay there and try to build up a fight with Chris Eubank. And Chris Eubank is actually probably the biggest fight Triple G can make at middleweight that doesn't involve a title. But Triple G is on a mission right now to get all the middleweight belts. I commend him for it. It's a division that's cursed. Because let's look at the history of the middleweight division. Think about it for a minute. In the 80s, nobody gave enough respect to Marvelous Marvin Hagler until people from lower divisions started coming up. People like Duran, Hearns, and ultimately Leonard. And in the 90s, we had to do the same thing with Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins had a decade of dominance, and it didn't get recognized until Tito came up and actually had to fight him at 160. So, and now we're just waiting for the next one, because the next one is Canelo. Canelo has to be the one that has to come up and challenge this middleweight monster that we have in the division. So the fight itself, we all pretty much knew what was going to happen. But I do feel bad a little bit for Triple G, because you would think that the guy that has 2 belts compared to the guy with 1 would have the bigger advantage in the business side. But Canelo's one of the few fighters, probably right now the only fighter right now in boxing that's not quote-unquote retired, that can be a pay-per-view attraction and doesn't really need a belt to be that pay-per-view attraction. And that's pretty much what it falls in line to. He's unfortunately at the wrong side of a business deal, and he's going to have to, unfortunately, agree to a catch weight, most likely 157, 158, agree to all the terms to get the Canelo fight, which I'll say right now, I do believe it'll happen in September.
I'll go to you on this, Gail, and then Jacob says, Gail, you was covering the fight. Jacob, you were at the fight watching, and then you can follow up Scorsese. Thoughts on the fight? And are we being a bit too critical here of Triple G?
I think you're being critical of the wrong people. There's a lot to criticize, but I don't think it's the Golovkin camp and it's not the K2 camp. Sitting at the news conference post-fight, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to ask about in regard to the fight. We all saw it. We all knew it was going to happen. It was still impressive. And what is very impressive is the dedicated fan base that can sell out a 16,000-plus venue for Triple G without question. It's happened now more times than we can count. He sold out Madison Square Garden. There are not a lot of fighters that can do that. For whatever reason, the pay-per-view isn't quite caught up, but the ratings over the weekend, admittedly with HBO being free for anyone who had it on a cable system, were excellent, absolutely great. So all the potential is there. But K2 wants this fight. Golovkin wants to unify the division. This is important to him. He wants to fight the guys with the belts before he thinks about moving up. So there are 3 guys with belts. Billy Joe Saunders, and you're right, Michael, ain't going to happen. He's already ducked him once. Danny Jacobs and Canelo. We all want to see the Canelo fight, but Oscar De La Hoya's shop over at Golden Boy counts on Canelo to be their main draw and main source of income. He is their star. And they're not going to willingly risk their star attraction before they absolutely have to. So let's hope he has a good fight and is feeling powerful after next weekend, and they will go for it. However, the various other scenarios were talked through at length during the post-fight news conference. Tom Loeffler, who is Golovkin's promoter, says he very much likes the Danny Jacob fight, and he went on the record saying he's absolutely willing to make that fight. We got some contractual and some network issues, and actually, Loeffler and Heyman work together fine. It's going to be the issue between the PBC's various networks, starting with Showtime on down, and HBO. And HBO is not going to willingly let a Golovkin fight slip through their fingers. If there's going to be a sticking point there, it will be the networks. It won't be the promoters, and it won't be the fighters. The other possibility that was raised for Golovkin, assuming Canelo keeps ducking and for whatever other reason those other fights don't come to pass, is something that you also heard mentioned on the HBO broadcast because it was being talked about in the press corps quite a bit, which was Zurdo Ramirez. Would they be willing to make a fight with Zurdo? Now, interesting, Abel Sanchez likes that fight a lot. I think it is a little premature for him. He is young. He's much taller than Golovkin. He's a tall super middleweight. So, interesting. But you can tell that Golovkin is frustrated. It is not his fault these guys won't get in with him. And, yeah, what else can they do? They don't want to give away the entire store. You know, they're frustrated about this insistence, you know, to fight at Canelo weight for the biggest fight he can take. They want him to come down to 155. You know, it cracks me up that we have people thinking, well, it should be no problem for him to go down to 155 and fight the biggest fight of his career at that disadvantage. And on the other hand, people are saying, yeah, and he should also be equally willing to go up to 175 and fight Andre Ward. What the hell are you guys all thinking? He's a middleweight. There are weight divisions for a reason. And I say that with Canelo in mind, too. You know, this catchweight stuff with him is starting to lose him some respect. One more thing I'm going to add real quickly. Canelo's media workout was Monday of this week. Canelo trains in the San Diego area, which is where he lives when he's not in Mexico. And actually, I think he's living here most of the time now anyway. And the normal process is Canelo comes through into the gym that they stage this in, which is very close to the Mexican border, through a throng of fans. He does the meet and greets. He gives interviews. He gets dressed. He shadow boxes. He gets his hands wrapped, and he spars. Normally, you're there a good 2 hours. He shows up. He does about 10 minutes of interviews. He was wearing, he's sponsored by Under Armour, so he was wearing a long sleeve Under Armour shirt and long sort of Under Armour track pants. Does the interviews. I assume he's going to turn around and go get dressed. Well, he got right into the ring. Okay, so he's going to work with the long pants on. That seemed odd to me. And he didn't do much of a real warm-up. He didn't jump rope. He didn't sort of work with any agility. They went right to some shadow boxing rounds. He did 3 3-minute timed rounds, and he was gone. That was it. And a lot of the news media, we all looked around at each other and said, that's it? Really? That's it? Most of us don't even bother to shoot many photos or shoot any video while he's shadow boxing. I mean, these things usually go on forever. It was a very odd appearance. It was very brief. It was very controlled, and it raised a lot of questions in my mind. I don't know if they're nervous. I don't know what's going on. They emphasized over and over how Canelo has been working on his hand speed. And while he was shadow boxing, he made a very big point of flashing, a series of very quick punches. I think they know they've bitten off quite a bit here, and something tells me they're concerned. They're really concerned. So after next weekend, we may have a whole different discussion on our hands. I mean, we didn't think Uchiyama could possibly lose. We may be talking, 10 days from now about Triple G and Amir Khan. And there's also a rumor about Triple G and Kell Brook, which is kind of crazy. But hell, if Brook's up for it, I'm not opposed to it. Who knows? So I think the blame is on market forces and on some of the business issues that we really wish would not get in the way. But at this point, I think the problem for making the Golovkin-Canelo fight is Oscar. And, it's a business issue for Oscar. He is afraid if Canelo loses to Triple G, his company's in trouble. So I get that. He wants to try to build in a little more time to bring up a few of his rising stars, and maybe have, a understudy in the wings, a Jojo Diaz, somebody else in his state, or Zurdo. Zurdo's created a lot of, buzz. Who knows what's going to happen? So.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had my mic muted. I go to you, Jacob.
But I will say this. The majority of the fans do not care that Golovkin's fighting a Dominic Wade. They want to come see exactly what they saw Saturday, and they tailgate outside the arena for hours. They buy everything that isn't nailed down, all the concessions of gear and posters and programs and T-shirts sold out in record time, same as they did at the Garden few months ago. They love the nod to the Mexican fans and the Mexican American fans, and they don't care. We as purists with a little bit longer memories, we care, but they don't. They do want to see if he knocks somebody out in the first round, and it's a good show. They're fine with it.
Okay, let me see if Jacob's mic is working again. Unmute your mic, and then I'm gonna follow up with you, Scorsese, and you, Francis and Joe. Your thoughts on this discussion regarding Triple G?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of good points have been made here. I am a Golovkin fan, but do I want to see him fight Wade's and the IBF mandatories that he's been fighting? No, I want him to fight. I want him to clean out the division and fight the best and these bigger challenges that have been mentioned. But I honestly don't think that Canelo fight's going to happen. I've been saying that for, I don't know, maybe the past month or so. I mean, Gael hit on a lot of points. I mean, Golden Boy is running a business, and they know. I think that fear is there, and they know. And even if Canelo wants to fight, he hasn't come out and said that he wants to fight at 160. He's very adamant about this 155 or 154, and I think that's going to be the excuse that happens. But if Lawfer and Golovkin's team is pretty adamant that they're going to say, you know what, if you don't fight at 160, you need to strip him, and we'll fight whoever is next in line. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Canelo's and Golden Boy are going to basically say, no, we're not going to fight at 160. They're going to get stripped. So what? He's still a superstar, and you know he's still going to make the money. And Golovkin's, we're never going to. I meant never, but we're not going to see that fight this year. That's what I think. You know, the Gael touched on a lot of points. I'm not going to go over a bunch of them again, but yeah, that crowd was there for Golovkin. They were eating out of his hands. I will say this for Golovkin. He's not. I don't have him number 1 or 2. I think he's number 4 on my pound for pound. I think he has a lot of potential. I actually have Andre Ward above him at number 3. But with Golovkin, at least the one thing he does do is that he is fighting lesser competition, but he blanks them out. He doesn't carry these fighters 12 rounds or doesn't have questionable decisions. So, I mean, I have to give him that much credit. I think there's potential there that if he is to fight a Danny Jacobs or one of these other fighters that can bring out another level to him, he will step up to that challenge, and I think he'll do a good job. So, do we want to see these fights? Yes, we all want to see these fights, but it's a very the business and the politics of boxing is really ruining this potential historical run that Golovkin's going through, and it's sad. But I mean, it is what it is.
Scorsese, and then Francis, and Joe, and then Michael.
I sympathize with Canelo in the fact that he is a special kind of fighter in the sense that he can fight welterweights and it be competitive bouts. Like, I'm a Floyd Mayweather fan, but there's no way in hell does he go up and fight Demetrius Andre. You just don't go up and fight hand speed like that and get a power advantage, the height advantage, the length advantage. You don't do things like that. But with Canelo, we're trying to thrust him away from a weight class where he's comfortable, even if it's made up. We want one competitive fight for Triple G, but we not seeing that. Canelo has about 20 competitive fights where he is. Both Charlos, competitive. Barnes Monterogen, competitive. You bring up welterweights, and they are competitive. Possibly. I would have loved the Tim Bradley versus Canelo fight, because I don't know yet. I don't know. So it bothers me that you know what? He should have never took that middleweight crown. If he won it, he said, "I never fought at middleweight."
Right. See, that's my pushback, Scorsese. You mentioned all those fights if you're right, but the thing is, if he has all those fights, move down 1 pound and fight at 154 and defend the belt there against those guys.
I'm trying to get away from loving belts because the belt organizations don't love me. Like, I'm a Javier Fortuna fan, and they just gave his shot to somebody else. So they don't love me. So I'm trying to get away from, I don't love your belt. If both guys are healthy at 155, 154, or I'm like, cool, let's do it. It's a good fight. So I'm even that way with Golovkin. If he can make 155, he's comfortable doing it, I'll watch the fight because Canelo's only saying, bro, play ball with me, and I'll fight you. And if he doesn't play ball after he told him the rules, then I'm on his ass. But all I'm saying is I try to get away from these belts. I believe Golovkin's career is going in a direction that makes me very uninterested because he's made it all about belts that don't love us. One of my friends told me to name one undisputed champion that held the belt for longer than a certain amount of time. So I'm asking myself, why do it? Why do it? It's great fights out there, and we're missing them because of his love for belts, and a lot of these fighters are not even champions. Lemieux was a belt holder. He was not a champion. Lemieux was mad at Max Kellerman because Max Kellerman said Golovkin hasn't fought anybody, and Lemieux comes out and says, "Hey, you consider me nobody? I'm sorry, sir. You lost to Joaquim Alcine. You lost to Rubio. You lost on every level. You have fought. You have lost. You lost on the low level, the highest level, and the mediocre level. So please give us a break. Give us a break. Let Max Kellerman say what he said is true. I love Golovkin's style. Very fun. I mean, you can do the Tyson thing, but Tyson was a 5'11" heavyweight. You know, 5'11" heavyweight.
Yeah.
That's the difference in what he was doing. Even though Golovkin's doing a great job, it's just he don't need Canelo. Canelo really don't need him. Golovkin's looking like he needs these belts, and he does not. Golovkin needs these names. He don't need none of that. I'm undisputed. We know what you are, sir. We know what you are. Boxing won't forget that. We know the middleweight championship is not an 155-pound championship, and we know that belongs to you right this day. I say it right now, and I don't need to see the fight. But if he wants to play ball at 155, he gets more credit than he does even at 160 because he has never fought it. Canelo's never fought at 160. So if you say I've never fought at 155, you've been here 3 or 4 times for 2 or 3 years now, and I went down there and I beat you, you get that Sean Porter, Adrian Broner type of credit.
Canelo's fought at 170.
Well, hydration-wise, he's up there, but he's in the ring at 150. If he can make it up, I don't like it, but if he can make it, that's how messed up boxing is. The belts, the weights, everything is messed up. So, like I said, these belt organizations do not love me. So, I'm not writing them love letters either. That's all I'm saying.
Let's not forget, too. Let's not forget something either. Like, Triple G let it out in the press that he was willing to go down to 154 to fight Floyd. And quite frankly, Canelo's going to use that. Said, okay, Floyd's retired now. I'm the number one pay-per-view star. You have to fight on my terms.
Canelo's not Floyd. Canelo will never be Floyd.
I don't want to interrupt anybody. It's my last point. All in all, I just wish the man gave up the belts. He got some of those 147 and 154, 55, I don't care, fights out the way that are very competitive and very sellable. And then when he feel like he's ready, jump to 160. Triple G obviously isn't going anywhere.
So in other words, Scorsese, you just want to see the good fights, period.
Oh, damn the belt. Michael, I promise. I'm on my knees begging for him. Forget a belt. I need 4 gloves and a ref, and we can get it popping.
I hear you. Let's bring Francis and Joe and then finally Michael into this discussion. Your thoughts?
I agree with Scorsese that I like get away from the belts because the belts don't love us. They don't love the fans. The problem, I love Golovkin. I love the fact that he knocks everybody out, but the problem is we don't know how good he is because he just doesn't have anyone on the other side. And I really hope the Canelo fight happens because I think the sport needs it. I think Golovkin needs it. Canelo doesn't need it. If I'm Oscar De La Hoya, I would tell Canelo skip Golovkin. There's plenty of other fights we can do for a lot of money. But as a boxing fan, I want to see it. I want to see the best fight the best, and I think Canelo's real good, and I think Golovkin's real good.
Francis?
I actually would prefer to see Golovkin fight the best. However, I don't think that there's opposition, the best opposition, that wants to face him. I mean, I don't, obviously because of maybe promoters or just behind the curtain, people and things that we don't see. But if he has to continue taking stay busy fights and taking these, smaller paydays than if he were to fight Canelo, then so be it. He should continue fighting tomato cans and people that aren't the best. It's better than not fighting anybody and not being able to make any money whatsoever and just continue being inactive. I don't think that people... I think that there are certain fans that just don't understand that opponents don't want to face him because he's so powerful, because he's so dangerous. I think he's a very risky opponent to face. Obviously, he hasn't fought the best, but I think even if he were to fight the best, I think he would still be incredibly dangerous.
And that's a very good point to be made, that you know, it's better that he comes into the ring in front of the fans, stays active, you know, doesn't disappear for months and months, like an Andre Ward. For whatever reasons Ward disappeared, justified or not, that was not good for his career. You know, better he get in there, better he keep training, better he stay in shape. And to add to that, many of you probably saw interviews that were done with two of Golovkin's sparring partners. Now, for years, Golovkin has sparred with guys pretty much at cruiserweight or light heavyweight because he hits so damn hard, he can't spar with guys his own size. And one of them was Darnell Boone, whose name most of you know, and all of his fights have been at cruiserweight. He comes right in at 200 pounds. And he talked about sparring with him, you know, where Golovkin is only sparring at about 30 to 50% capacity, and the guy is just killing him. So you hear stuff like that, and we come back around to Oscar De La Hoya reading stuff like that, knowing it's true, and saying, holy shit, I don't want my big star humiliated, or even the possibility of it humiliated, you know, without us really being ready, without the stars all being aligned, and without the money being worth the risk. And that's always the issue in boxing, risk versus reward. Because anyone will step in the ring if the check and the payoff is big enough, and that's it.
Finally, Michael, your thoughts on all this. Unmute your mic, Michael. Michael, you got your mic muted. Unmute your mic.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I'm on. I agree with everybody's points. I'm a fan, and I just want to see the best fight. Belts. I'm for the belts only because, you know, the belts, going back to old school days, the belts serve a purpose. You know, the best being the best. I'm all for fighting all belts. That's just me. And with this whole Triple G Canelo, to everyone's G really needs this fight against Canelo because the competition is pretty much lacking at 160. We all know this. I'm really not for. I have this +1 in any weight division. It's not just exclusive to. We see these catch weights in so many different fights. It really doesn't make sense. On a broad spectrum within box, I never liked it, and it's just taken away from the. Because I said they're all pure. It's just taken away from the purity of boxing. Canelo needs the, you know, he Triple G at 160. They have weight limits or reason. If Canelo can't make 160, one of his middleweight, so why try to drain Triple G to 155? Which really doesn't make sense to me at all. Just make the fight, and if you lose, you know, you pick up straps, you go. He picked himself up after the Mayweather, the Mayweather. So I just don't understand why the continuous harping on you got to come down to 155. It's for the middleweight title. It's Triple G. I have Triple G in my top. I have Triple G in my top 5 pound for pound. I just as a fan, I just want to see great fights against top level competition. And like Triple G really needs this fight. The only knock that I would have against Triple G is this. Now he really wants to clean out the middle, which is great. But there was a time when Triple really he was interested in big money paydays too against Carl. He wanted to fight Raj. He wanted to fight, you know, Chavez Jr. and stuff like that. Glad he went against that and just went to strict, you know, cleaning out 160. And if it doesn't happen, maybe it's time for him maybe just to go up to 160. But if he doesn't get is out there besides Jake and Joe, who else is really out there to beat? Because nobody really wants to step up to the plate and fight him. Is Toronto John? Is his shoulder healed? Is he still on the shelf with that shoulder injury? Maybe we could see that towards the future. Canelo doesn't want to. But the bottom line is this: Oscar De La, everybody's point is protecting Canelo. And Canelo's he fought Canelo in his 3 fighters when he fought against his prime. Trout, Mayweather, To me, he lost all three. They were definitely highly debatable. I think that Triple G is gonna, really do some damage. But that's the fight we all want to see. So hopefully, go give the fans what we want. Is that fight?
Okay, we're gonna talk about Chocolatito, his win, and what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go to Francis and Joe and talk about the fight, and then I want to talk about a kind of a heated debate that took place over the weekend about Chocolatito here on the YTBC. And I'll just start with Scorsese and just open up for there. But first, I want to give like an analysis with Francis and Joe, your impressions of the fight. For me, McWilliams Arroyo, he had his moments early on, and then I'm not going to say the fight totally changed when Arroyo had issues with his shoe, but there was a difference in my opinion because it's kind of coincidence almost that as soon as that happened, you saw Chocolatito really start to turn it on. He kind of overwhelmed him with pace, with activity, and power. Arroyo, he stayed tough. He fought hard throughout, but again, Chocolatito proved to be too much at the end of the day. Your impressions of that fight?
I was actually impressed that Arroyo was able to go the distance with Chocolatito. From the opening bell, I thought that the fight was very interesting. Both opponents showed great hand speed. I think the turning point really was in the second round when Chocolatito threw that first 6 or 7 punch combination, which really stunned Arroyo and sent him backpedaling. I noticed in the first round they were standing in the center of the ring and just sort of exchanging. But after the second round, it seemed as though Arroyo was stunned by the combination that Chocolatito threw in the second round and just started backpedaling throughout the fight. Chocolatito just kept trying to smother him, and Arroyo would have to back up to really set up his punches. Hats off to Arroyo because he did throw a lot of power punches. He did have points in the fight where he shined, but unfortunately his punches just had very little effect on Chocolatito, probably because he was backing up. He couldn't plant his feet well. It's hard to back up, plant your feet, and then throw a quick combination when you have Chocolatito coming in and smothering you. And then in addition to that, the issue with the shoe, that's terrible too, because as if you already didn't have a problem with planting your feet, now you have a problem with your shoes. You can't get the traction that you need on the canvas to really turn your body and land those punches. So honestly, it was just bad luck for Arroyo, and I'm sorry to say, but very embarrassing for Adidas. And at the same time, it's just very embarrassing. But at the same time, I'm impressed with Arroyo. He held his own. I thought that Chocolatito would try to finish him early, and he did, but he was able to stay with him. So Chocolatito just did an amazing job, just throwing those combinations, 5, 6, 7 punch combinations, really smothering Arroyo. I watched his earlier fight today with Estrada from a few years back, and oh my gosh, what a significant and impressive difference in Chocolatito's speed. He just looks more powerful and more fast, and he's just made such amazing progression over the years. So I'm looking forward to seeing who he'll fight next.
Yeah, I think Chocolatito, he dominated the last 8 rounds of that fight. I think Arroyo made a good showing for himself, especially considering his shoe fell apart. I mean, I'm sure that affects your balance, and you got enough worries about you got this little Nicaraguan guy ready to knock your head off, and now you gotta do it without a sole in your shoe. I'd never seen that in boxing before, and I gotta imagine it's gotta affect your concentration a little bit and your balance. But Arroyo, he hung in there with Chocolatito when not a lot of other fighters could. So for Arroyo, I thought he did a good showing for himself. For Chocolatito, I thought he looked good. He couldn't get the knockout, but he really I thought looked impressive, and I'm curious to see where he goes from here, because I think it's Estrada and Cuadras. He's got some options in front of him that could be good fights.
Yeah, we'll talk about Cuadras quickly in a little bit, but I'll go to you, Scorsese. There you go, Francis and Joe. There was a debate that popped up following the Chocolatito McWilliams Arroyo bout in the YTBC, and the debate was whether Chocolatito Gonzalez deserves to be ranked number 1 pound for pound. For those who do not know about this debate, since I believe you was listening live, or the day of that debate. Give some insight on what was discussed and your impression and your thoughts on whether Chocolatito Gonzalez is the true #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world.
I'm first off, man. I was just sitting here listening to everybody, and I just want to say, man, you do an amazing job of hosting this show, man. Like I'm not on here much. You do an amazing job of this, though, bro. Like
Appreciate
straight,
it, bro. Appreciate
we're gonna take boxing to a new level. This is amazing right here. I don't know other sports to do this. You know, I don't know it. But that debate, I'm telling you, that's another thing that pushed boxing right there. You got Nauta boxing. Nauta's an excellent boxing talker. You have Truth in his word. They went head to head. They were basically refereed by EJ Boxing, Boxing Beats and Rhymes, and my man Ben Umar. So they are going at it. Nauta's telling him Chocolatito is the man. Chocolatito is the Floyd Mayweather. Truth in his word is telling him Chocolatito's Antonio Margarito. That's what he's telling him. He's telling him he's Antonio Margarito. And I think the whole panel and the comment section all eventually settled in on that there's no pound for pound champion right now. It's up for grabs. I mean, I just think that myself too. When I look at Chocolatito, I'm entertained. You know, I'm very entertained. I go back to the Golovkin pay-per-view. I don't think that's when he made his debut. I don't think that's it. I think it was a fight before that, correct?
Yeah, I just can't remember.
Yeah, I think he fought a a fight before that.
Yeah.
But I remember.
Yeah.
Monroe.
I recall Chocolatito, you know, Hawaiian punch. You know, hit a name, punch. He can punch. Chocolatito walked right into the storm, and then the next fight, I recall Golovkin really keeping the distance with Lemieux and trying to outbox him, and you know, trying to stay away, not Chocolatito, and I was so impressed with that. And he got the job done and finished even when he was hurt. But then as I watched this bout, I was kind of off. I think the shoe sole thing, because the fight was competitive, and then this guy's shoe just fall off. I'm like, I'm finally getting to see one of these dudes tested, you know, on live TV, and the shoe falls off, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not liking this because he's still getting hit. I'm sitting there telling myself it might be a bit disrespectful to some people, but what's the difference between Edwin Rodriguez and, you know, they both coming forward the entire fight, taking punches, being a tougher man, in my opinion. I just said, only thing I really liked about Chocolatito that fight was the straight right hand to the body. After that, I didn't really feel like I was watching the greatest fighter of our time. Right now.
I'm going to mute you, Mike, because I'm going to you, Dill, and then I'm going to open that up. I think you talked about as well on your channel, and everybody else can follow up. Your thoughts on this debate that's been happening post Chocolatito Arroyo in terms of Roman Gonzalez and whether he is the top dog overall in boxing?
Well, I just had a debate with Naota video response, and Aztec 101 went against me about it too, because I have Sergey Kovalev as my #1 pound for pound right now. And you know how I feel about it. The fight, it was competitive. I enjoyed it. Both guys got off. It was kind of funny seeing Arroyo with his boot soles coming off the way he did earlier in the fight, and they taped that back on, and he looked kind of off balance, but he took some shots. Chocolatito took some shots. You know who Chocolatito reminds me of a little bit? He just don't have the jab of this guy. Salvador Sanchez, the way his speed rate is and his pace goes.
I never thought of that, but now I think of, that's interesting.
Yeah, when I watch Salvador Sanchez fights and I see Chocolatito's fights now, I'm like, he glides in the ring pretty well. He slips through punches, and when you throw a combination, he comes to counters you back and does it in more devastating fashion and wins the rounds, or he's got you hurt, or he's going to get you knocked out. Salvador Sanchez did the same shit. If you watch his fights and stuff back in the days, may he rest in peace, and he was one of all-time greats that never got to display how even more great he could have been. I would still love to see that Pedrosa fight, but
Yo, can I ask you a question, man?
What's up?
So how does Chocolatito deal? Because you said he'll take your shots, he'll take your combos, even if one land, two land. You said he'll take them and he'll come back with that. How does Chocolatito deal with somebody who will wash, rinse, and repeat? By that I mean he'll turn them, he'll fire combinations, he'll tie him up. It might not be a fan friendly style, but he'll fight smart to win. Because Arroyo didn't do a lot of that. How would Chocolatito deal with that? That's why I can't say he's my greatest fighter until I can see that. So what do you think he do?
I think Arroyo's jab wasn't on point that night, but Royal's other fight, his jab was on point. But to get Chocolatito, you got to have some real hand speed. I'm talking about world class hand speed. Number two, you got to have world class footwork, and number three, you got to have some power that he can respect, and you got to have counter ability to go with it. And I mean, real hand speed. But I haven't seen Chocolatito fight somebody athletic. You want to know what it would take for me to believe Chocolatito's pound for pound? And I know people go be like, he's too small, but hey, Rigondeaux's too small. Beat Nonito Donaire, and I believe you number one pound for pound. If you could beat Donaire, I'm putting you as my number one pound for pound. And Chocolatito, he already fights it and rehydrates himself at 126. He's about to move to 115 and fight that Japanese guy. And him and Estrada might get on for another big payday. But other than that, who's going to fight? McDonald, a washed up Anselmo Marino, or I mean, who? So I'm just saying, in the long run, Chocolatito is like number 3, number 4 pound for pound on my list. And the reason why is he's get them as stacked full of killers like we do with the welterweight division, and now the reemergence of the heavyweight division. And I could at least name 3 or 4 killers in the light heavyweight division. In the light heavyweight division, you got Berta Beef, you got Kovalev, Stevenson, and then Farfara could fight. And then you got Andre Ward, who's world class. So 175 is stacked. 147 is one of the richest divisions of being stacked. If motherfuckers fight at 154, that division is stacked. And heavyweight, what's more stacked than heavyweight right now? I can't name a division. So all in all, Chocolatito is benefiting division where there's parity, and his skill and his size just trumps, and he's just a better fighter until you fight somebody that can match his athleticism, his speed, and his power, and it's all about strategy. And people say Estrada or this Japanese guy from another division is the answer. I'm not sure. But the true test, let me see him fight somebody like a Rigondeaux, a Donaire, or even a stronger fighter in McDowell. And if you could win those fights, I say yes, you're number 1 pound for pound. But since you moved up 7 pounds in your whole career, or possibly a little bit more, no, I can't do that for you. I can't do that for you. And plus, nobody gives a fuck about those divisions nationally, globally. And I'm sorry, I can't get a skeleton fighter the number 1 pound for pound. I just can't do it. That's a disservice for the big men like Klitschko, and hell, I'd rather give it to Anthony Joshua right now than that. And that's far-fetched. But Chocolatito is the real deal, and he is putting his divisions on the map. And shout-outs to him. And that's all I got.
Okay, I want to open up the discussion right now for everybody. Everybody unmute your mics. Let's not talk about the fight itself. I want to continue on with the discussion that went down Sunday. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. Is he pound for pound number 1? If you believe he is, why? If you do not, why not? If you do not think he's pound for pound number 1, what do you think, to Dill's point, does he have to do in order to get that recognition? I'll just open up for everybody. Anybody can chime in.
He needs to do what Kovalev did, and honestly, that's one point where people would say that Sergey Kovalev is pound for pound number 1. He legitimately cleaned out his division. He took out Hopkins. He took out Pascal. Stevenson won't face him, and he's about to take on Andre Ward, and that's probably the most lucrative fight he's going to get right now. That's what he did. That's what he did. unfortunately, and Triple G, that's a Triple G for the weak division, and Chocolatito is unfortunately in a division where we're just starting now to pay attention again, and he's just the best one in that bunch for the moment. Now, they'll put up actually a decent fight if it could happen with Donaire. I know there's only like a 10-pound difference between them, but I would love to see that fight, in all honesty.
Yeah, but at that weight, at that size, 10 pounds is a lot. And speaking as someone Chocolatito's size, personally, almost exactly, that's a lot. That is a lot of weight.
Rigondeaux did it, and Rigondeaux's inch taller than Chocolatito, so we talk about skills against skill.
Yeah, but again, for guys in the bigger weight classes, a 10-pound difference isn't a lot. For a guy who only weighs 112 to start with, that's a lot. So proportionally, it's an issue. I don't think we should remove a guy from the top of the pound-per-pound list based on just one fight. But I do think his position's at risk if he doesn't have an opponent worthy of him in his next fight and performs the same way, combined with a really good performance from some of the guys, chasing that position right behind him. And you mentioned the guy that could probably take him off that spot, which is Sergey Kovalev. I think he's probably poised to do that. If he has a good year like we all think he will, I think by the end of the year, unless we have a spectacular Canelo Golovkin fight before the end of the year, I think it's Kovalev's to have.
You about to say something, Scorsese?
I kind of lost my point, but I'll go and I'll say this, man. And what Dill said about the lower weight class fights between Estrada and Gonzalez, you just have to ask people basically if they put Roman Gonzalez versus Estrada on Channel 2 and they put Kovalev versus Ward on Channel 3, you know what you're gonna do. You're not gonna miss that Kovalev Ward. It's really nothing. It's not his fault. It's really just nothing they can do to defeat these 175-pound guys, and they have so much more to prove it against. They have 68 that can be deep. They got, if they want to test themselves at 200, oh my God, you talking about that's legacy right there. It's just really nothing he can do for me. Like, if he is in the ring at 126 pounds, that's his functional weight. That's the same poundage that Rigo's in the ring at. And if we're talking pound for pound and we really want to respect that, hey, man, Rigo's right for the picking. Go get that name. Like, I can't believe Frampton and them guys won't fight him. This guy has been out of the ring. He depends on timing. He depends on having a lot of rounds. He is right for the picking. They said he wouldn't pull the trigger versus the what's his name? Darian. I can't remember the name. His last opponent.
Yeah.
Francisco something. So he wouldn't even pull the trigger. So he's right for the picking. If you wanted that respect, it's right there, and we're not gonna see it because he's now a business. Chocolatito is now a business you're trying to thrust. No longer are they worried about his pound for pound solidification. They already did that with ESPN. They already done that. All they worry about now is getting them in main events and making money off of them. So he's not about to solidify anything. That's going to belong to Kovalev and Ward.
Okay, while I agree, I preface this by saying I am a fighter of the small weight guys. I'm one of the few channels within YTBC or within other spaces that talk boxing that really focuses on the lightweight division, so I preface by saying that. I understand when folks say that the smaller weight fighters are only going to go so far. You're right. My problem is, especially comparison to what the welterweights, what we're seeing at welterweight, what we're seeing at really super middleweight, which we will talk about to end the show, and what we're seeing really at heavyweight. And what we're seeing at heavyweight, that's going to cast a shadow over all the sports, given Joshua, given Wilder, Fury, Klitschko, Ortiz, because once the heavyweight division is going, particularly here in this country, everything else falls, is secondary if not tertiary, right? In saying that, there are spaces for lighter weight fighters. Let me give you an example. 1993, you had Lennox Lewis, you had Holyfield, you had Riddick Bowe, right? All fighting each other. Bowe and Lennox Lewis had beef. You had Holyfield on the scene and whatnot. Hell, you even had Tommy Morrison and George Foreman, okay? You had, below that, you had the emergence of James Toney at super middleweight, defeating Iran Barkley, but showing he was one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. You had Whitaker Chavez, arguably the biggest event that year. You had Roy Jones at middleweight. You had the star rising up in Felix Trinidad and Ike Corte. And yet, for 1993, what was the fighter of the year and who was the fighter of the year? The fighter of the year was Michael Carbajal. The fighter of the year was Michael Carbajal, Chiquita Gonzalez. All I'm saying is this: you can see the same scenario that you saw in 1993 and here in 2016. There is a space for these guys. There is a space for Roman Gonzalez. The problem is, back in those days, with Carbajal, you had a Chiquita Gonzalez who you saw regularly. Prime ticket, West Coast, fighting out of the Forum, that you could see everywhere. Because I remember as a teenager staying up late at night to watch Chiquita Gonzalez. You don't have that anymore, unfortunately. This is one of the things where the network, boxing on network television, is failing. They should have a space there for Roman Gonzalez to be featured, considering how good he is, how exciting he is, but they don't. Somebody should have picked up Francisco Estrada, have him on one of those networks. Maybe not a PBC card, but you got Fox Sports cards all over the place on Tuesday nights. Why don't you have him defending the title there? How come somebody's not reaching out to Inouye, who has a belt at 115? Anybody who sees him, they know he's a dynamo at that weight. Bring him over, possibly bring him to an After Dark show on HBO. Feature him on one of these PBs, Fox Sports cards, Golden Boy. I don't give a damn who it is. And feature them. You can have Roman Gonzalez, but he needs a dance partner who we see regularly, and you don't have it. That's the difference now as opposed to then. And you just don't have it. Now, in terms of Roman Gonzalez, do I have him number one? No, I have him top 3, top 5. I just switch depending on who's fighting and whatnot. I don't think he necessarily needs to move up to fight Rigondeaux. For me, again, I preface this by saying I'm a fan of the smaller weight fighters. Fight Estrada again. Beat him decisively. Move up and fight Inouye and get that and try to build that fight. And to Dale's point, you want to find an athletic guy with skill and power and range and technical will and smarts, who has a real good chance against Estrada. He's over in South Africa. He just signed with Frank Warren, and his name is Olani Tete. And if you've seen him, that little motherfucker's a bad dude. He would give Roman Gonzalez hell in the ring. He really would. So again, there are spaces for him out there, but it's just a funky situation where it's not being taken advantage of.
Do you think so? Who is your number one pound for pound? If you had to be honest right now,
Ward, still.
Even though Kovalev got 3 of the belts, dominated a lot of opposition the last 2 years.
I cannot discount what Ward did from 2009 to the end of 2012, 2013. I just can't.
But it's even 2016.
But still, even if you see him in the
for 3 years.
But even if you still see him in the ring, outside of Kovalev, who you think outside of possibly Kovalev, who gonna beat him?
Well, the good news is we'll be able to settle that once those two get in. But I can't see
as much as folks talk Triple G and whatnot, and I'm a Triple G fan. Triple G ain't beating Andre Ward.
There you go, Gail. There you go, Gail.
Size guys. No, I think it has to be Kovalev. It has to be, because the activity has to be current and the opposition has to be worthy. And that's my only problem with Golovkin. I see tons of skill. I like him. I like what I've seen of him. He hasn't put a foot wrong. But you know, when you're talking at that level, it has to be Kovalev. But the good news is, our argument, Michael, thankfully, looks like is going to be solved. I mean, it is going to be settled one way or the other.
I know I'm in the minority with Ward, but you let him beat Kovalev later on in the year. That will leave no doubt None.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what's so exciting about it too, because we
Mike.
are going to be able to settle that discussion for everybody once and for
Go
all.
ahead. Go ahead, Dale. You got a question?
Yeah, this is why I picked Kovalev, man. Because 2013, 2014, the man 175 was Stevenson. He was known as the main guy in there, right? Lineal champion, got rid of Dawson quick, like nobody's business. Then all of a sudden, Stevenson and Kovalev were fucking around with negotiations, bid purses, yada yada. Who gives a fucking network bullshit? Okay. What did Kovalev do? He fought Hopkins, somebody Stevenson could have fought, got credit for, and whoop Hopkins' ass like I ain't seen before since Chad Dawson and Roy Jones Jr. Okay. Then he goes and mollywops Pascal twice. Then, I mean, it was pathetic. Now, Caparello, he got that knockdown on Kovalev. What Kovalev do? He got angry and whooped that fucking ass. Then you got Ishmaelic. I never seen people whoop Nathan cleverly the way Kovalev did. Then he whooped the shit out of Campillo. I mean, this motherfucker has, what, 7, 8 title defenses with the IBF strap. And then he got the WBO and the other belt. And he's just making it look like it's effortless. And he's almost got this division white. It's just, Stevenson, Bird of Beef, Alvarez, Fanfara. These are the fights that Kovalev got left to really wipe out this division. I mean, this guy's a monster. And he got 3 belts, and he's the closest right now in boxing being an undisputed champion. Yeah. It used to be Klitschko. Now Klitschko could avenge his loss, and this could be his legacy fight, and finally have a rival and get a rubber match against Fury. And then if he wins that 2 out of 3, then you gotta give the pound for pound mantle to Klitschko. But another guy that could make this list is Deontay Wilder or Alexander Povetkin. And Povetkin beats Wilder. Not only does he get a title, he also, other than Klitschko, got the most stacked resume at the heavyweight division. You gotta consider the opponents, the skills, and who the fighters are and how their performances are.
Let's bring Jacob and Francis and Joe and Michael into this the discussion. Open up your mic, folks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have Chocolatito as number 1, but I don't update my pound for pound every week or every time there's a fight. I do it once a quarter. I let the fights roll in and see what happens, and then then I rank them again. I agree with what Gail said, or I think everybody kind of said it. I have Kovalev number 2. I have Andre Ward number 3. If one of those guys beats each other, you beat a either higher or right up at the top pound for pound guy, you move to the top. Chocolatito's performance, although not what everybody wanted, he still won that fight. Like, he won almost every round of that fight. Did he not knock the guy out? No. Arroyo's a tough guy. I mean, he showed a lot of heart, and Chocolatito still took care of business. So, I mean, Gail said it earlier, I can't judge somebody on just because they have one fight, one bad fight or one not spectacular fight, because it wasn't a bad fight. He won the fight. He clearly won that fight. And he had Arroyo hurt many times in that fight. The whole thing with the Ward, though, I agree with a lot of these other panelists in the sense that, yes, Ward did an incredible thing, but that was such a long time ago. If we're going to rest on things that happened in the past early on, in your career, I mean, then you can have fighters that, like a Roy Jones Jr., and say, oh, well, he cleaned out the division back then, so he's a pound-for-pound guy. There has to be a current competition and current accomplishments for you to get to the pound for pound.
Well, you're right. It's just, again, what I've seen lately from Ward in his last 2 fights, outside of Kovalev possibly, again, I just still don't see any of these guys beating him. I just do not. I just don't.
Can I throw another requirement of my pound for pound guy? Like, I need to see a guy that could be successful versus all styles. He can go on the inside, and if he shows that in every fight and he looks very unbeatable, I don't have a problem to say, hey, he hasn't fought the best competition, but he has everything. and he's shown it. I mean, who's the most complete fighter you guys seen in a while? That, I expect that somebody would say Mayweather, right?
Yeah.
And even though he couldn't get let's say the 140 Costa Zoo, he couldn't get the fight. You could throw him there because you just seen he had every style to adjust. And so if I see that out of Roman, see that out of some of these guys, fine. But Kovalev and Ward, they don't have to show that right now. They have a resume and they're doing pretty good, showing that no style is going to beat them. But I do think Stevenson would give Kovalev all kinds of hell, and I really want to see that fight.
Stevenson better start employing that right hook. Using that right hook more often.
Michael, he has I think a 6-inch reach advantage. He very fast feet. Kovalev leaps forward. Man, if he take a step back, it could be crack city, and he could never find out how to deal with that left hand. We don't know. I mean, it's a fight that could tell in the first 2 rounds. But he did employ the right hook early versus Chad Dawson. He did do that. So, like Beat said about him, I don't think you have to worry about his right hand till you show him that you can't deal with his left hand. But that's a fight I love, and I'm just sad that they can't make it. I love it more than the Andre Ward fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let me say for the record, I'm not being a Chocolatito hater, if you will. For the record, okay, I got Ward 1, I got Kovalev 2. I got Chocolatito right there at 3. But again, I've never had him in number 1. And I just don't see, from what I've seen from him so far, impressive resume, hell of a fighter. I just cannot put him above Kovalev right now. And given all that Ward has done and from what I've seen from him lately, I just can't put him above that either. And again, I might catch some flack from this, and I said this on Twitter. As good as Chocolatito looked, I saw some things in there that showed that he could get beat. And again, I knew it. Estrada in a rematch. And Tete, that dude at 115, 118, as good as Chocolatito is, that Tete dude would give him all kinds of trouble.
How you spell his name?
Zolani Tete. Zolani, Zolani, Tete, Tete.
Okay, thank you.
And for the record, you mentioned McDonald. There's word that he may fight Jamie McDonald later on this year, early next year, and bantamweight. But Tete has said on the record that he would come back down to 115 for a shot at Chocolatito. So that's why I throw his name in there. Let me get Francis and Joe in here. Your thoughts, and as well as Michael.
Well, pound for pound, I think it's Kovalev right now, but I got Ward right behind him because Ward, I know he hasn't been as active recently, but he had a period where he was so dominant. Kovalev's like a buzzsaw now, and I think when those two fight, the winner to me is the clear-cut pound for pound person right now. As soon as they're done, as soon as that fight's over, the pound for pound king is determined in my book. I got Golovkin after that, and then Chocolatito. And I think, Mike, you're right that Chocolatito needs somebody on the other side to push him to help him get a good challenge.
And my thing is, again, excuse me for interrupting. People were saying Regal. People often say Regal. We all know Regal is great, but again, I preface this by saying, as a fan of smaller weight fighters, he doesn't need to move up to fight Regal to find those kind of challenges. They're right there close within his weight range. Folks just do not know about them.
Yeah, I agree.
Francis, then Michael?
Funny thing is, Rigo's a natural 118 guy fighting at 122, though.
Yeah, I have to actually say that for my number 1 spot, it's a tie between Kovalev and Chocolatito. I like Kovalev. I like his power. I like his ferocity. Chocolatito is a different type of ferocity. He's a smaller guy, and I tend to admire the smaller fighters better because they throw a lot more combinations. They're faster. They're explosive. With Chocolatito, I see things. I like a lot of what I see. I know that he hasn't faced Inouye yet, so maybe my opinion will change after he faces Inouye because Inouye is a killer. But some of the things that I like about Chocolatito are his abilities to throw like 5, 6, 7 punch combinations. He absorbs punches really well. Another thing that I liked about him, just watching him fight McWilliams Arroyo, was that he tends to back up when he is being attacked, However, he's always in the distance to counter back. He doesn't ever back up so much that he's not in the distance to counter back, but he's always at the perfect angle to be able to attack his opponent again. And Kovalev, my gosh, just a heavy-handed monster. Oh my goodness, there's just not really much more to say about him. Golovkin, I mean, he's probably in my number 2 spot, probably tied there somewhere with Ward, but it's hard for me to decide who takes my number 1 spot because I just like so much individually out of each fighter that I see. I just pick and choose things that I just really like. So sometimes it's hard to decide, and sometimes my opinion changes.
Michael?
Well, Mike, I'm in agreement with you. I have Ward. Once Floyd Mayweather retired, I have Ward number 1 pound for pound. Yeah, we talked about his inactivity, but the totality of what he has done past few years, inactivity aside, he's the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world in my book. I have Roman Gonzalez number 2. I actually have Gennady number 3. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of fighters that was in 122 that moved up to 126 that didn't want them, and that's, I mean, that's not fault. Hurt Gennady was when he mollywopped Donaire, and then how terrible the Abeco fight looked when he fought in Atlantic City. I mean, how that was an absolute snooze fest. That hurt. That really, even though he won the fight, that really hurt him. So, and I have Kovalev 4, Triple G 5. So, with Ward, to everybody's point, Ward could even solidify to me his number 1 ranking once if that Kovalev fight jumps off and hopefully later on this year. But I have Ward 1, I have Roman Gonzalez number 2, and I actually have Regan down number 3.
That's actually a pretty decent list, considering what Regan now can do.
Hey, Michael.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'm talking about Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson, can I ask you a question?
I think he dipped for a little bit.
Okay. Can any of you guys...
Okay, I'm back. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you name me 2 of the most dominant champions Chocolatito has beaten so far?
Well, real talk, he hasn't beaten a dominant champion in his career. No, he hasn't.
Shouldn't that qualify part of being pound for pound? At least have one dominant champion on your resume?
That's why I have Kovalev above him.
Okay.
That's why I have Ward and Kovalev above him.
Couldn't you make the argument though? Mayweather, what was the last dominant champion that he fought? But he was a pound for pound.
Mayweather always fought. The last dominant champion Mayweather has beaten was really the first one he beat for the title.
Gennady Hernandez?
Yeah. Oscar De La Hoya was a dominant champion, but he wasn't a dominant champion at that time when Mayweather fought him. Then you look at Mosley as a former dominant champion at lightweight, but was he really like undisputed or something like that and so many title defenses? No. I mean, Mayweather has beaten a lot of dominant multi-weight champions. That's what he has done in boxing history.
Moved up 24 pounds as well and had every skill. Like I said about my pound for pound requirement, something I would love to see. Not a requirement, but what I would love to see is you have every skill. If a guy is too strong for you to walk him down, you outbox him. If Zab Judah is outboxing you, you walk him down. And Floyd Mayweather, I mean, what skill did he not show? You don't have to like him, but he'll make you respect him. So, you know, I'm asking that in like Chocolatito. Like, yeah, you can walk these guys down right now. Yes, you can. But when they watch, rinse, and repeat, and they make you adjust, what happens then? That's the opponent I want to see. And if he passes that test right there, we're dealing with real deal. Triple G the same way. When I want to watch a competitive Triple G fight, I have to go watch the Andre Durrell fight at the Olympics, and I had to see that Triple G had to do different things, and he got through it doing those different things. So I want to see that on the pro level, so I can look back and say, hey, that's a bad man. It's nothing you can do. You just got to take the L. And I don't have that guy yet. Ward was that guy, but was is a word though. He gets his chance again now.
Yeah, I want to move on and move into discussion. Talk about another fight right quick. We've been talking about Chocolatito Gonzalez and is he number one and who's there for him to fight possibly. A guy that's on the radar that he could possibly fight is Carlos Cuadras, who has a belt at 115, WBC virgin. I'll go to you, Daniel, and then Gail can talk about this. Cuadras scored I want to say a 9th round stoppage over a Filipino fighter by the name of 8th round stoppage TKO over a fighter by the name of Mepranum. After the bout, interesting enough, he called out Chocolatito as well as Estrada for a fight. Quickly, folks, your thoughts on him if you saw the fight?
He's one of the pretty much, like I think I said it last week, he's one of the pretty much the only 3 acceptable opponents for Chocolatito if you want to see him next, especially if HBO wants to put him in the main event. He's only one of the only 3 acceptable opponents. And he's been smart in calling out the 2 people that could just wind up facing each other in the end when it comes down to it, because Chocolatito said, I have 1 fight and 112 left in me, then I'm going to 115. So Cuadras will be waiting there if Chocolatito wants to have that rematch with Estrada next, which I would love, personally. And then there's Nue.
Yeah, I think the comment that you repeated there, Daniel, about him saying, I've only got 1 fight left at 112, it's got to be Estrada. I mean, it has to be.
Yeah, there's Rungro is out there, but folks don't know about him, so Estrada, it has to be Estrada if that's his last fight at 112.
Yeah, and he's smart, and some of the criticism about his performance, it is funny, as good a performance as it was, we expect so much from him, and that there was a lot of nitpicking going on, and if it is due to the fact that he needs to move up in weight, he's smart. Get this one last fight he wants out of the way that the public really demands, and now that there's decent money to be had with him through HBO and through the interest in him, get it done, move up, and move on. And that's what he needs to do.
All right, let's move on to the news segment here. I think it was either you, Daniel, or you, Scorsese, talked about this pre-show. Some issues regarding Francisco Vargas and a possible positive test. Daniel, Scorsese, talk about it.
Oh, man. Okay, first of all, this is the second time that it's popped up this year in a major world title fight. What Francisco Vargas popped for is clenbuterol. Now, clenbuterol is used mainly as a medical for decongestion, clearing mucus, and for asthma. But it can also be used to help you lose weight faster. And interestingly enough, it's actually used in livestock for livestock to beef up, which, like I said, that confounds me for some reason. And Francisco Vargas tested positive for it. He DA sample. I think they're going to go through the B sample. I think Golden Boy put out a statement, and to Gil's credit, saying that the fight's going to go on still.
Yeah, for those who don't know what fight you're talking about, mention it, please.
All right, the fight is the Francisco Vargas versus Orlando Salido. They still have that fight going on, but we have to be going to B sample because we have to see now whether or not Vargas might be stripped of the title. But what's interesting though is something that Gil mentioned before the show, that there's concern actually in the Mexican Olympic Committee about a lot of their athletes going into Rio because clenbuterol's been popping up left and right in their meatpacking plants, in their slaughterhouses. So this may be a case where Francisco Vargas actually may be in the right. Maybe he did eat some really bad meat, and it just popped up because he does still live in Mexico, and there are different food standards in between countries. So we don't know yet, but like I said, right now the fights are going on, but it does put a very, very bad cloud over Francisco Vargas right now, especially after he just had the fight of the year last year.
Yeah, let me read you the statement that Golden Boy sent out late this afternoon in response to this, and it's short enough that I'm going to read the whole thing as they wrote it. Golden Boy Promotions has issued the following statement with regard to WBC Super Featherweight World Champion Francisco El Bandito Vargas. Quote, as part of a voluntary testing program that Francisco Vargas requested ahead of his June 4 fight, he tested positive for clenbuterol. Francisco believes he tested positive due to ingesting contaminated meat in Mexico, where clenbuterol is commonly used by ranchers in livestock feed. The Associated Press reported this week the practice may impact athletes throughout the country ahead of the 2016 Olympics. Francisco is, and always will be a clean fighter. This is why he insisted on this voluntary testing program ahead of his first defense of his WBC championship. He previously tested clean as part of this same voluntary testing regimen and in all of his previous fights. He will immediately leave Mexico to finish training camp in the U.S. in order to avoid any possible repeat of this situation, and is fully cooperating with the California State Athletic Commission to submit all required testing ahead of his June 4 title defense. You're right, Daniel. What happens now with VADA testing, they've tested what they call the A sample, but errors can be made, contamination can happen, no judgment is made off an A sample. At the same time the sample's taken, they get separated, and a B sample is set aside. They will then test the B sample. Now, if there's a mistake made and B comes out clean, the whole thing is sort of a whoops, never mind. Now, if the B sample comes out dirty for clenbuterol, they're going to see if there's a difference, in the level. Is there anything else that's suspicious? And at that point, then a discussion goes on. But in boxing, we have a different story than we have, say, in seriously doping-controlled sports like cycling, which is where we've all seen this stuff come up over and over and over. That's incredibly egregious stuff. So, normally I'd call bullshit on, I ate contaminated food. I mean, how many times have we heard that over the years, right? Oh, whoops, I had this. Oh, whoops, some strength trainer gave me a protein shake and I didn't know that was in it. Oh, gee. This one, especially because news reports about exactly this problem came out before the problem with the sample was reported, that's an interesting that's an interesting series of events. The Mexican government tested 200 different ranches over the course of 2015, and 58 of the 200 tested positive. That's more than 25%. That's a lot. So, and I'd love to know, in what area Francisco was training in the country. I mean, Mexico is a big country. It's like saying, there's some contaminated meat in the U.S. Well, it's a whole lot different if the meat's in California versus, it being in Tennessee. So I'd like to know, are some of those 58 dirty ranches feeding the food supply in his area? I'd like to know a little more. But with voluntary testing, it's not mandatory. I don't know that it really affects the fight, depending on what the promoters and the individuals involved and the WBC, what they agree to.
Hey, Gail, I'm sort of dumbfounded with the testing stuff. I'm not really deep into it. I just be hoping these guys are clean, but I'm a guy that if I don't see it, it's tough to believe it. But my question to you is, are they taking the A sample and a B sample on the same day, or are these like, hey, your A came up bad, come here today and we're going to do B?
My understanding is they do take a B sample at the same time. They take it separately. So in theory, it should, if one sample is inadvertently contaminated, the other is, hopefully not. they're handled differently, they're stored differently. Because you can also have a sample go bad if it's not held at the right temperature, for example. But it wouldn't make any sense to have a B sample now if the sample, if the A sample was taken a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. And I'm not going to say that this is what's going on with Vargas at all. Let's say, for example, you get your A sample drawn, and you're dirty, and the B sample isn't drawn for a few weeks. Well, of course that's always going to be clean. So they have to be taken at the same time.
That's what I was asking, because I was about to say it's very suspicious if a guy says, hey, you know what, I can get away if I say the fight can still go on if I test dirty once. So let's get this in me, and then we'll be okay on the beast. Now, like that just kills all integrity for testing. And testing,
absolutely, yeah.
And testing definitely, to me, already has no integrity. When VADA, even I don't care how good they are, when they sit up here and they say, if these fighters did this so many days ahead, we can't do anything about it. So basically, you're telling me that you can't catch everything, but you're doing you're doing your best to, in this little time frame, to catch something. So basically, you're putting this guy could be dirty, but you're putting your reputation on the line because you can't catch him because you don't have enough time to do so. So you should tell him, I feel like you should tell him, I'm only testing 365, or we're not testing you at all. That's what the most.
Bingo. You mean you read my mind, and I'm with you 100%. Let's remember what VADA stands for. The V stands for voluntary, right? So you volunteer for it. You know it's coming. You can plan for it. You can work around it. I mean, the truth is nobody should be caught in VADA testing for anything. They should be able to stay clean because they're willingly submitting. The reason doping controls work and they catch so many guys is amazing to me in sports like cycling is it's not voluntary. They are tested. They're randomly tested. They get, people showing up in the middle of the night at their houses in the off season, and they follow them around. USADA testing and the equivalent testing around the world with no notice all the time is the only stuff that works. And that's why we finally have caught all these people in cycling. I think we probably at least have a ghost of a chance of having that sport clean at this point.
And cycling doesn't kill many people. Cycling doesn't leave guys.
Absolutely right.
And that's what they do it for. Like, it's crazy. Boxing will break your heart, man. It breaks your heart.
And point well taken. As angry as it makes you when you don't think it's a level playing field, honestly, with cycling, my feeling is dope all you want. What the hell do I care? If you're all doing it, you're still on a level playing field. That's fine with me. I'm okay with that. And you're right. Nobody, except for running over somebody else, nobody's getting hurt.
Crazy.
Actually, Scorsese brought up something very interesting because talking about boxing as a sport that requires risk, let's not forget something that happened to recently involving Steve Cunningham and Antonio Tarver, where Antonio Tarver popped for a banned substance. And now Steve Cunningham wants to file a civil lawsuit against it because he said, you might have put my life in danger because you were in a sport where we may die.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think Bill and Francis and Joe had to dip out. I want to thank them for joining us on the show this evening. Hopefully have them back in the future. I'm going to go to you on this one, Michael. Unmute your mic. Word has been popping off this evening on Twitter about negotiations happening for a possible fight between Kell Brook and Jesse Vargas in unification bout. Your thoughts on that, bro? Unmute your mic, Michael.
Kell Brook and Canelo. Listen, I just want to see.
Yeah, Kell Brook and Jesse Vargas. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to see Kell Brook come over to the States and fight anybody at 147, any big name. I mean, once he beat Sean Porter, and then he got over that unfortunate, incident that he had in London with the stabbing and everything. He recovered from that very well against Jojo Dan. Then he had another. I forgot who he fought last. He had another. I just want to see Kell Brook, and it seems like in the States, not with us as pure boxing heads, but like with the mainstream media and casuals, Kell Brook is an afterthought. So if he could come over here and fight a Vargas, I'll be Jesse Vargas. I'll be great with that. I just want Kell Brook to come over here and just dominate and do this thing because I was one of the ones if let's say Bradley did beat Pacquiao, I wanted to fight Bradley or any of the big welterweights. So I mean that's definitely a good look for Kell Brook coming over here and hopefully he gets another dub.
Yes, especially since politics are preventing us from seeing Kell Brook and Errol Spence Jr. right now. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that fight. Not mad at it at all.
Me neither.
I'm going to you on this one, Daniel. Thoughts on the announcement of Carl Frampton moving up in weight to fight Leo Santa Cruz in July at Barclays?
The biggest surprise so far that it's in Barclays, because I think me, probably Jacob and Gail pretty much all figured this was going to be at the Staples Center. But
yeah, absolutely, because he's already proven to be a draw there, and
But this actually tells me two things. Number one, Brian McGuigan is paying for this fight, not on Heyman, because this fight's obviously going to be on Showtime, and the only reason you would put it in the East Coast in this part is because there's actually a lot of really big Irish population in this part of the country. New York, Connecticut, and obviously New England. So Frampton's going to have a pretty decent home crowd advantage coming into this fight. And it's a fight that he got stripped the belt for in the 122. Well, it was a good thing because Rigondeaux got his belt back. But it's a good fight to be able to see. It depends on who we get. Me, Joe, and Francis actually we debated on this on Sunday. If it's the Carl Frampton that we thought we were going to get in the quick fight, then this is going to be amazing, especially with the work rate that Santa Cruz has. Because once that motor stops going for Santa Cruz, you can't stop him. If we get the Carl Frampton that actually showed up for the quick fight, it could be a little bit of a boring fight. But it all depends when it comes into it. But Carl Frampton is going to have a pretty big home crowd advantage here because there's a lot of Irish folks out there.
Yep, indeed. I'm going to go to you on this one, Jacob, and you can respond as well, Scorsese. Thoughts on Kovalev fighting Isaac Chilemba in Russia on July 11th, as well as Anthony Joshua, first defense of his IBF heavyweight title against Dominic Brazil on the 25th of June. I'll just say I knew they wouldn't have that fight on the same day as Klitschko Fury 2. I just knew, so they actually moving it up to fight on the 25th of June. Thoughts, Jacob, and then you, Scorsese.
I mean, the Kovalev fight. I mean, I actually like the fight. I think he'll win, but I think it's a decent competition. So I mean, I'm excited to see that fight, and I like that Kovalev's staying active, and you know he's got his eyes set on the prize with Ward, but I also think that he doesn't look past his opponents. So I'm not mad about that fight at all. Of course, we all want to see the Stevenson fight, but you know I don't think that's going to happen. As far as Anthony Joshua, we had talked about it before. I mean, I think Molina, Stavern, and Brazil being the opponents, and this was probably the worst one that they chose, in my opinion. If anything, I just hope he knocks out Brazil, and you know he becomes an afterthought.
Scorsese.
Quick point on what Daniel said about the home crowd advantage for Frampton. I'll say this: Leo Santa Cruz. I don't think he's gonna be hearing a crowd. You hear a crowd when you're thinking. Leo Santa Cruz is punching. So to the question asked to me about Kovalev fighting in Russia, my biggest thing is HBO going to pick that up? They're gonna let him break out of his contract for that fight. Because if so, then that tells me they just looked at the Stevenson fight and said, hey, too much of a risk to do business with another side when we have a war fight. I do think they're gonna pick it up. just to protect they little vested interest that they have put on the people. Is
Or it could just be a CYA move.
what's that?
CYA, covering your ass move on their part.
Okay, yes, of course. That's what I see happening. Anthony Joshua, not mad at this opponent. You know, he's a big heavyweight. He just got out of a 2-round fight. But then he wants to stay active. You don't want to go in the training camp, fight 2 rounds, and then go do mitts in the back. You want to be active. So, but then you think about after this fight that he should get through pretty easy unless Dominic Brazil, show something that we don't think he have. And I'll be watching to see. He might have to take on Takama Joseph Parker. So he not might gonna have to. This is an IBF we talking about. So unless he's fighting another champion and unifying, he's gonna have a tough fight in his next fight if they make the Parker Takam winner fight him. So I am not upset with that opponent. It's just his time's coming. His time is coming.
Okay, I'm gonna open up for everybody here. Thoughts on the Fury Klitschko conference. Fury was Tyson Fury was Tyson Fury, saying all kinds of stuff. Took his shirt off to show his. I don't know why. I don't want to see his body. Talk about how a fat man beat him, and he got under Klitschko's skin to the point of Klitschko actually cussed at him. Told him F you and that he's going to knock him out and all this. Just open up your mics for everybody. Your thoughts on that press conference earlier this week.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it because it just made me intrigued, and some other people have made me intrigued. But the first fight turned me off so bad that I didn't want anything to do with either one of these guys fighting each other. But that's what it just did for me. This is my heavyweight championship of the world, and the most intriguing thing of that whole entire thing, besides the first press conference, was this big mattress they had in the ring, and it turned me off. It turned me off to the point that I just said, "Hey, I'm just going to get the result, and I'm going to enjoy Wilder Povetkin." But I need to get into this because it's too important, and I don't need to be like I'm being now.
Daniel Jacob.
I just hope that Klitschko, lets his hands go and doesn't go down like he did in the last fight. I mean, I think he has a lot to prove in the sense of his legacy, and I hope he backs up his talk. The fight before. I mean, I give credit to Fury for the game plan that he came in with, but I mean, Klitschko was just very tentative and didn't throw his hands, and as much as his corner was telling him to, he just let that fight slip away, at least to make it some type of competitiveness. So, we know he's at the end of his career, and I mean, hopefully he comes to fight and doesn't worry about whether he gets knocked out or not. But he's in there and he puts on a good show.
Daniel.
All Klitschko has to do in this fight is just do more than nothing, because he literally did nothing in the first fight. He just has to do more than nothing to make it competitive with Fury. And I'm sorry, if you get Vladimir Klitschko pissed off, that's music to my ears, because that means he may throw his hands. And remember, actually, me and Mike, we talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago. I remember Steve Cunningham knocking down Tyson Fury, and he felt like a log. That's Steve Cunningham. If Vladimir Klitschko lands that he may not get up. So we're going to have to see it coming into it. And one interesting thing that came out of it's either at the press conference or an interview afterwards is that apparently Tyson Fury is going to move his family to L.A. because of their discrimination in England that we're going to have with the Irish travelers. Does that mean he's going to change trainers because his dad and his uncle can't get into the country right now thanks to their criminal records?
Right.
That's the only thing that's going to happen.
I didn't know that news, but yeah, that is interesting. Oh, that makes me cause for pause here. I have to think on that. I have to think on that. That's an interesting move.
That's before the fight, or they want to move him after the fight?
Probably after the fight, because there's not much you can do before. There's not much you can do before fight. You logistically cannot move him to LA and then move him back to England, where he's gonna have his dad and his uncle training him again. If you're going to California, that tells me three things: knowing full well that your dad and your uncle can't get into the country. You're either thinking Robert Garcia, Abel Sanchez, or John David Jackson.
Okay, the problem is Fury has such an unorthodox style. Let's face it, the dudes can be gangly, can be a bit of a klutz. And I'm going to keep reminding folks, this is the same dude who hit himself in the face with an uppercut. His uncle Fury, he knows Tyson Fury inside and out. He developed a style for him to deal with that height and that gangly aspect to him. I don't know if he moves to LA and takes on a new trainer, will they make him change his style? How can they adjust to Fury in the way he fights? I don't know about that move.
So what is the charges that I think his name Big Peter
Fury, yeah.
What is it?
Okay, John Fury, I think he beat the living crap out of somebody, so he got manslaughter. And Peter Fury got drug trafficking.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does Anthony Joshua have? Because he's trying to get a Showtime deal and everything else.
That's why they're going to keep him in England, and HBO, if they're going to make moves with him, they're going to have to do it while he's fighting in England.
Which is actually why I would want him on Showtime, because at least the Showtime crew will let either Sky Sports take care of it, or they'll do like in the Povetkin fight. They'll actually be there.
So HBO is very stingy, man. They are just stingy. It's ridiculous, man. I don't know, but I haven't worse people got in the country. Look at artists and rap artists. What they go different places. They get into other countries. How is this gonna happen?
Well, that's the thing. They're already U.S. citizens, so they're just coming back to their home country. If anything, you're supporting those other countries. They're supporting them back to their home country. Mm. This is Anthony Joshua, Peter Fury, and John Fury trying to immigrate to the U.S.
So we can say that legally nobody has ever been in prison in another country is in the U.S. Come on.
No, it has to. I think they vary by the charges. If it's something like what is equal to a low-level misdemeanor, they'll let him in. But for something like the amount of drug trafficking that Fury got convicted for and manslaughter, they kind of put a pause on that for a little bit. I don't know Anthony Joshua's case though. I know it's bad enough where it may stop him, but then again, if you grease the wheels enough in the federal government, you can make things move.
I want to say
he's not trying to immigrate though here, is he? Anthony Joshua's not trying to live here, is he?
No, but but you still need a visa for it.
Right. Well, I think that's a little bit different situation than the Furies if they're trying to actually immigrate here. Like visa, it's only good for a certain amount of time.
But it's actually sometimes, and I'll probably say this from experience, probably growing up in Miami, growing up around a whole lot of Cubans and Nicaraguans, it's actually a lot tougher to get a visa than to actually get into the country. Trying to immigrate through legally or illegally, it's actually sometimes tougher to get a visa.
Yeah. Because I heard it's a drug charge with Anthony Joshua because, as we all know, who knows about Anthony Joshua, he used to deal dope back in his younger days. But I'm not sure. Nothing's been stated publicly what his issues are.
Yeah, they hide that shit under right. That's ridiculous. They hide that shit very well over there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Joshua is a saint that we know he's not, and they're like, hey, let it go, tell him, I don't know, just speak.
Yeah, that was Dillian White's big issue before their fight. He knew some of Joshua's past that he doesn't like to talk about. So yeah, that's the deal there. Let's move on and talk about, since we're a little bit short for time here, start to close the show out by previewing what's coming up this weekend. I want to put a couple of these fights in one, the doubleheader on HBO. Baldo Jack defending his belt super middleweight belt against Lucien Bute, WBC, I believe. DeGale defended his IBF belt against Porky Medina. I'll go to you on this one, Scorsese. Jack Bute, DeGale, Medina. It looks like the winner of each bout will fight in a unification bout later on this year. Talk about it. Bute, he looked pretty. He looked good in a losing effort against James DeGale last time out, and it's going to be an interesting fight against Badu Jack. I just think the progression that we saw in Jack's performance against Groves, I really like what I saw in that bout. And if he continues that, I think he's going to edge Bute here.
I think Badu Jack is finding a new style every time he fights it due to confidence. He's going in there. He's learned from the man that teaches him, basically, the man that signed him. You don't have a style. You have an adaptation to boxing, and whatever it takes, he's done. You know, with Darrell, he put that man on the ropes. With Grove, they boxed in circles, using angles. He did whatever it took, and it was a level of confidence that, you know, I'm just excited for a guy like him. You can take a L, you can bounce back. You know, the future's bright. You know, so I appreciate what he's doing right there. Bute, we know his struggles, we know his comeback. Both of them have had that, you know, that down moment, and now they saw that at the top. Bute might be his last shot, and unless he can get like a Darrell to boost him back into title contention or something. But I don't see Badu Jack's confidence allowing him to not get into this thing and win this fight. Like, he's a strong super middleweight. His confidence is up there. He's winning this fight.
As far as DeGale and Porky Medina?
DeGale, before I saw, gosh, I'm forgetting the Mexican's name, 6'1", top rank, what's his name? Zurdo Ramirez. Before I saw Zurdo Ramirez, I like James DeGale more than every other super middleweight. I want to talk about my infatuation to Ramirez. Just know it's there. But DeGale has the inside game, has the foot movement. The guy's foot, he wears about a size 18. I just noticed that in the picture. I want you guys to check that out. And I don't know any other super middleweight doing that, but he has like a size 18 foot, no doubt. But to have that, he's not flat-footed. This guy's moving around the ring. He'll smother you, put in work, throwing shots from crazy angle, two-handed like crazy. But he gets tired, you know, and he's never won a fight dominantly when we looking at that level. You know, when we looking at the level we want to see, he never dominates, and it's probably because of stamina. It's probably because of him being so complete that he's trying to do too many things, and he might open up a window for you.
In other words, you think he either loses focus or he thinks too much.
And gets tired, yeah. But this fight, it should be easy fight for him. Should be easy fight, and I'm ready for that unification. To me, those unifications there, they mean something. These guys have both proven something. Beating both Darrells, have a loss to one of these guys. Bute, the Jack, Groves got knocked down. This means something. I like that.
I'll go to you, Michael, then you, Daniel, and Jacob as well. Talk about Badu Jack and Bute, as well as James DeGale and Porky Medina that's fighting on the same card this weekend.
Man, I'm excited for this Badu Jack fight. To everyone's point to which everyone has alluded to, the struggles and his resurgence, and I'm just really excited. I'm just hoping for definitely for a great fight, and for Lucian Bute, this is his last stand. He needs to just go all out. You know, attack Badu Jack in the body, hit him with the hard right hands. That's basically what he can do. And with the James DeGale fight, I mean, when I was just looking back at his past previous fight, I really like his hand speed of really, you know, the double and triple jabs that he's doing, going to the body. I'm definitely, these two fights on the card are more definitely more interested in looking at these two than the one that I know we're gonna have to talk about, which is unfortunately the Andre Berto and Victor Ortiz. But hopefully we definitely get some good fights out of these two for the super middleweight division.
Daniel and Jacob.
Yeah, I think we're missing the. I don't know if anybody caught this, but Chunky versus Porky. I don't know why it's not on the poster.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I knew somebody was gonna do it.
I put that on my Twitter feed. I said, "Does anybody think this is funny?" Chunky,
Listen, I got a question that's better than that. I got a question that's better than that. Will we see DeGale's sister at ringside? That's all.
I hope so, because she's fine.
Oh my
God!
God!
Hope so. She gets extra points.
Woo!
She's on fire, man.
Because man, listen.
Eloise, right? Is her name Eloise?
I think listen. Bro, you ought to check her out on IG, man. That's all I got to say.
Bro, if that's a stepsister, you never approve of that marriage. You never. Man, that chick. Ooh, wait. Matter of fact, put that IG right there. Put it there. Fuck that. Woo!
Let me try to find it while y'all talk. Continue on.
I got DeGale beating Porky. I'm really impressed with DeGale. What he did last year, and going into the Lions dance twice and coming off with impressive performances. He does tend to get his stamina is a little bit of an issue, but I think he has enough grit to get through that, and so I think he'll have a pretty easy go with Porky. I'm actually picking Butte to upset Jack.
Oh wow!
I think Butte is gonna. I think off that last performance, I think he's gonna build off that, and everybody's right. This is his last chance, and I think he's gonna come out and leave it all in the ring. And I'm gonna say late stoppage by Butte. That's my prediction.
Ooh, I like that.
Rematch.
That doesn't sound too bad. All right, let's start first with the DeGale fight. DeGale, to me, is still the best super middleweight. Now that Andre Ward is out of that division, is the best super middleweight in the world. And as much as Zurdo Ramirez showed off in that fight against Abraham, I'll say it again, that's just one fight, and that's just against an Arthur Abraham that literally almost did nothing in that fight. DeGale has been in good fights, and like with Butte, he's been pretty much in a fight that I scored a draw with Butte. So, and he's not afraid to go anywhere, because let's face it, this is in the DC Armory, so he's not here in Britain, and I think it's going to be probably most likely like a 7th or 8th round stoppage by DeGale, because Porky Medina is a pretty tough little guy, but DeGale's just too complete in that sense to stop in. But I'm rolling with Jacob. When it comes to Butte Jack. I think Butte wants that rematch with DeGale. Because there are many people that I've talked to that are not in Canada that scored that fight with DeGale a draw. And to get that revenge match, and especially saying now, I'm not just coming for your title, I have one too now, that's going to be an extra motivation. And on top of that, just remember, there's a title unification fight. Thanks to Felix Sturm's little screw-up, there's also now going to be most likely a vacant WBA super middleweight belt.
Oh, man. Yeah. Hey, I want to ask y'all about that. How y'all feel about this? Because if the sanctioned bodies want to show us some love, they could start by doing things that we would appreciate. So, since you said that, did you say WBA belt? Which one is it?
Yeah.
Okay, and that was belonging to the Russian, correct?
Yeah, Russian, but then Sturm beat him, but then Sturm popped for anabolic steroids.
Exactly. So now that is vacant, unless they give it back to the man that got screwed in the fight and prior to the fight, because I do popping drugs. Okay, how do y'all feel about if the sanctioning body said, you know what, skip this number 1 versus number 2. Let's support unifications and invite champions to fight for our vacant title. Let's say, hey, Jack and DeGale, if y'all want to fight, we'll throw in our belt as well. And then you can fight our number 1, number 2 later. How y'all feel about that?
The IBF does the best in that because they actually have a rule in place in their bylaws that says you have a mandatory and your only exception is a title unification. And this is particularly big. We're going to look at when it comes to the heavyweight division, because you mentioned it, Scorsese. You mentioned Anthony Joshua most likely may have to face Joseph Parker.
No. You didn't hear the question right. I don't think. I don't think you heard it right. What I'm saying is, the IBF, say the WBA is vacant at 168 like it is. But you have Jack with the WBC and you have DeGale with the IBF. And then you have WBO with Ramirez. I would like if the WBA and every other organization would go and say, hey, who's the longest reigning champion? Hey, James DeGale, you're the longest reigning champion. We would like to put our belt on the line in your next fight. And we would also like to go to the next longest reigning champion and say, hey, do you want to fight for our belt versus him? Or do we need to go to the next champion? Or do we need to let this longest reigning champion fight our number one guy to support unifications? That's what the fans want. So like I said earlier, they don't write me no love letters, so I don't love them neither. But when they do things right, they did things like that, man, they would be killer. They would be just CPR to the sport, man.
Actually, I would love that idea.
I
would love that idea.
I see Hakim has joined us. Hakim Boxing. Open up your mic, brother. We're talking about dude Jack, Lucien Boutte, DeGale, and Porco Medina. Your thoughts on that quite quickly?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, for my thoughts on the Lucien Boutte versus Badou Jack, you said?
Mm-hmm. As well as DeGale and Porco Medina. That double header.
I have DeGale. I think, it's just a normal fight to me. It's kind of just one of those fights between getting them to fight each other, hopefully here in the future. In regards to the fight itself, I think DeGale will finish him off within, I think I had him within 8 was one of the predictions that I gave. For DeGale end up finishing him. I mean, there's just a difference. There's always levels to boxing, and I think people seem to forget these levels are sometimes quite wide in between fighters. I think this is one of those perfect examples. I definitely think Badou Jack versus Lucien Boutte will be a lot more competitive. Lucien Boutte comes to fight when he's completely motivated. I have Badou Jack win. I don't know if it's going to win by knockout or how it's going to go down, but I definitely have Badou Jack as my favorite in this fight by a pretty large margin.
Before we go around, for the record, let me say for the record, I think DeGale will win quite easily over Porco Medina. Maybe stop him. Badou Jack Boutte. Something tells me that Boutte may score upset, but I'm just going to go against my better judgment, and I'm just going to say Badou Jack because, like I said before, I was really impressed with how he beat George Groves in all facets of the game. See, for me, Badou Jack's win over Groves was more. The only reason that Froch's win over Groves was more impressive, particularly the second fight, was because he got that knockout. He landed that big right hand. Otherwise, outside of that, I would have said that Jack's win over Groves was more impressive than I saw from Froch in either fight against George Groves. That's how much I liked his performance, but people will look at the way the second fight ended with the knockout and probably give Froch the nod. But I like what I saw from Groves. I love the fact that not that he can just jab from the outside and fight in the inside and go to the body, counter, lead, can move with his feet either way. To Scorsese's point, he's a guy who can change on you at any time. He can adjust. He's a fighter who can easily adjust to what you're doing, can take away your weakness. I just like he's good at every aspect of the game and what I saw. And I'm going to use that and put that over the top and give him the nod over Boutte because I want to see Jack and DeGale. I think that's one of the best fights that can be made right now with Ward officially out of division. I think that's easily the best fight at super middleweight, and I want to see that fight later on this year. While you're here, Hakim, we kind of had a pretty long discussion in response to the debate about Chocolatito Gonzalez and whether he's pound for pound number one and why he is and why he's not and who would you have up there and whatnot. But before we go to the fight, Ortiz-Berto, which I really don't want to talk about, but it's there. Your thoughts on the debates that happened post Chocolatito Arroyo here on the YTVC in terms of whether he should be pound for pound #1. Your thoughts on that, Kim? Unmute your mic, brother.
The case of Chocolatito is definitely a hard one. There's a number of different issues. One, his greatest wins are not really well known, given that even myself, as more of a hardcore boxing fan, I'm not really well acquainted with the lower weights. That's mostly based on ignorance. I think lower weights deserve the respect. I don't think a boxer should be judged on his weight class. That's one thing I do want to put out there first and foremost. In regards to Chocolatito's status within the top 10, he's definitely within the top 10 without a shadow of a doubt. Any individual who moves up 3 weight classes, I believe this is his 3rd one, correct? He's going on his 4th at 115?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to make sure I'm correct on that end. Given the fact he's gone up these 3 weight classes and he's undefeated, it's definitely a lot of respect should be given to him. Now, being #1, I'm going to say no. I think pound for pound status is not solely based on how many wins you have in some degree, not even how many weight classes you jump. I look at a situation where I believe Andre Ward is #1. I think Andre Ward, I know a lot of people say Super 6 is a long time ago, but even if you follow his career even after the Super 6, he may not be as quick and nimble as when he was, a younger age, but given the technique, his technique and his ability to read punches has not gone down, and I don't see it going down anytime soon. So it'd be hard for me to judge anyone above an undefeated Ward whose opponents, for the most part, have been top-notch outside of Paul Smith, and I forgot who the person was prior. Sullivan Barrera.
Edwin Rodriguez.
Yeah, Edwin. Okay, then never mind. Just one opponent, Paul Smith. I mean, it's hard to go against someone who has a resume like that, especially when you look at the other pound for pounds. You got Golovkin up there. His resume can be scrutinized. I mean, we'd all agree to that. We also look at Canelo Alvarez. He's got some decisions. Some people believe he lost to Trout. I definitely believe he lost to Lauda. And he has lost to Floyd, where he completely just gave up in the fight, as far as I'm concerned. So Chocolatito definitely deserves to be in the upper half of the pound for pound. #1, I can see no one going to be against Ward. I think to even assume Chocolatito or anyone else is better than Ward, I think is a resentment factor, and people hold grudges. The fact that he gave up his prime when a lot of us wanted to fight, and we judge him for those reasons, which are honestly none of our business, they do play a role in how we look at him as a fighter, and whether or not he's #1. But like you agreed prior to the live show, and I agree, he's #1. So there's no way I can ever put Chocolatito #1 when I know Andre Ward deserves the respect he gets. I'm sure deserves the respect that he should get and be #1.
Where do you have Kovalev? Out of curiosity.
I have Kovalev. I'm not gonna lie. I can't recall who's on my pound for pound. But in regards to Kovalev, he is on my pound for pound. I just don't know his place. I would put him above Golovkin, and I would put him above Chocolatito.
Yeah, I got him #2 on mine.
And I wouldn't disagree with that. But Estrada is a wonderful fighter.
You gonna roll with him no matter what.
I am gonna roll with him, and I'm putting #2, even though people can always beat my case with this. I'd have a #2. But Kovalev, I think Kovalev gets a lot of flack sometimes, and it's kind of like the Floyd Mayweather flack. People seem to forget that Jean Pascal can beat most other people in that division. He just can't beat Kovalev or Adonis Stevenson, but you can argue very.
Hakeem, he can beat everybody. He can't beat Fonfara, in my opinion. He couldn't. He couldn't beat the Cuban.
Okay, let's say he can't beat Sullivan Barrera. Let's count. Sullivan Barrera is, let's say he's #4, right? #3 is Fonfara. #2 is Adonis Stevenson. #1 is Kovalev. Who's after that?
Well, think about the Gennady Gonzalez fight. Could he beat Shabransky?
He could beat Shabransky, yes. No, the Gonzalez thing, I mean, that's debatable. But let's add them too. Let's add them as well, okay? Now we got 7.
But what about the Alvarez? But what about the Alvarez fight, though?
Pascal is past it. I do give
Okay,
Kovalev
but we get
like Gonzalez couldn't do. Kovalev he dominated unlike Gonzalez, but to say Pascal beats everybody else, it is too much of a praise for Pascal. He is very far past it. But taking nothing from Kovalev, I don't complain when nobody got him number one. No.
I mean, I do have, I guess maybe I have a soft spot for Jean Pascal. I like him as a fighter. I think he gets a lot of flack. To me, he's very good competition. Either way, I just want to hold on to my point. The reason I kept asking you guys for names is because I want to emphasize where Jean Pascal is. He's still a top 10 legitimate fighter. Anyone who gets a win on his resume against Jean Pascal gets a boost in his career. And to think that Kovalev went out there, Kovalev went out there and he did not just win. He dominated.
Very fair.
Twice.
Yeah.
Twice.
Twice he dominated. And
I actually think Pascal could beat Stevenson. I actually would take Pascal over Stevenson.
I wouldn't agree. I don't
know at this point. Maybe 2-3 years ago, yeah, but I don't know at this point.
Adonis might get a lot of disrespect, and his name might be very much shitted on. But he is a bad man. Let's all remember that.
Yeah. I don't give Pascal a chance against Stevenson. Not after the beating he took at Kovalev, especially this year. That beating took it out of him.
Let's move on and start to shut the show down by talking. Y'all gonna talk about this fight more than I am. Rematch between Victor Ortiz and Andre Berto.
Oh God!
Hey, I'll talk about it. I love
it. Me and T are down for this.
Y'all know I got issues with this, especially with Victor Ortiz. Speak on it, fellas.
Fight to look out for. Fighter to look out for. Jonathan Guzman at 122. He'll be on that PBC on Spike card. He can punch his ass off, y'all. Exciting. You know, a Dominican Republic fighter. Just check him out if you have it.
Good looking out.
Big power.
This is you know what? If you look at this card, it's not a bad card.
Not at all. And there's
some competitive fights on this card, and I'm gonna be there live. And I know, Michael, you don't like the Berto Ortiz fight, but again, for me, they're both at a similar stage in their career. The first fight was entertaining. You know, they're there to entertain me, and if I see a good fight and it's a good night boxing, you know, I'm happy.
You know what, Victor Ortiz, I said this on another show. Victor Ortiz is one of those Mayweather opponents that spent his money the right way, and he boosted a career somewhere else. It's been said that he does not need boxing. Quitter or not in the past, how much he gets on your nerves, I get it. He can leave a sour taste in your mouth. But he don't need boxing. But for the fact that he's coming back, because Berto's called him a fag. He's called him this. He's called him that. He's coming back for that. Not a check. So if he goes in there, and I'm hoping he wins his fight, because I feel he has more to offer, I think he's a better fighter all around. I want to discuss the breakdown. Victor Ortiz is southpaw, better feet, just better fighter than me altogether.
Well, the fact that he beat him in the way he beat him before, he is going to beat him in a rematch.
I really hope he does. I really hope Victor Ortiz is back for all the right reasons that my mind say he's back, because he doesn't need this. But he's fought step-up fights just to get himself ready for this again. And if he beats Berto and he garners enough confidence to fight somebody in that division, maybe a Danny Garcia, maybe a Jesse Vark, and he beats them, man, you talking about Canelo opponent again. Victor Ortiz is special to me, man. He just got something about him. That's just me.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Victor Ortiz as well. I think he's a better overall fighter than Berto. I want to think one of Berto's weaknesses to me has been he's very stiff. May have a lot to do with his muscle mass. He's just very, very stiff individual.
Yeah. He needed to do some yoga, Pilates, or something to loosen himself up.
Exactly, because even when I'm not sure, have you guys seen the videos of him sparring lately where even when he punch, it's just so slow. And I know he's not a slow fighter at all, because one of the things he does is he snaps. But the problem with Berto is when he snaps, you ever notice when Berto snaps, he's stiff as a rock. He just stops moving his legs. He just stiff with the jab. And it's going to give a problem, because one thing that Victor Ortiz is very good at is he kind of has that he does a lot of slipping. I mean, and his slips are not obviously the fastest because they didn't work the best against Floyd. I mean, that's Floyd, though, it's a little bit hard to judge. But when Berto sits there and he does all his muscle into one punch and he just misses Ortiz completely, I'm seeing knockout. I'm just saying knockout. I just think Ortiz is the overall better fighter. I think Berto doesn't have anything left in the tank. I respect him outside of boxing. He's a great guy, no doubt about it. Him and love for his country, Haiti, and all that. I think he's a great guy. But when it comes to the ring, he just doesn't have any more to me. He gave us a good career. He beat some good guys, but I think this fight to me is just is just trying to trick us. This is not. They should have rematched a long time ago. This is just a sellout for us, and it's ridiculous. Yeah.
They tried to. They were going to do it at the Staples, but Berto failed the drug test. That's.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I forgot about. Thank you for jogging me. I forgot about that. I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think T's right when it comes to, because I think Victor Ortiz, honestly, I think Victor Ortiz does have the box ability to beat Danny Garcia, in my opinion. He just doesn't have youth. But I think, youth as in he doesn't have as many battles. Danny Garcia's got a lot more in the tank. He's young and he hasn't taken that much damage. But I think Victor Ortiz versus Danny Garcia. That's a good fight to me. That's a very good fight to me. And T's right. Yeah.
They will make. They'll make it. Danny Garcia's money, and they're gonna look at Victor Ortiz like, fool. Man, if that jaw's healthy, I'm telling you. To me, you gotta watch out. People feel like he's older because the man ain't 30 yet. He ain't 30 yet. He got a big left hand. He got power in both hands. Victor Ortiz need to win, some confidence, and to tell himself, I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter. I gotta quit playing. And if he does that,
I just have to. I will just. I understand it, and the brother is talented, but I just have to see it mentally. Is he all there for more than one fight?
Yes, sir.
That's the key, because I haven't seen it really in his career. Only time I really saw it was the first Berto fight, and that's why I think he'll beat him again. But outside of that, it's just too many mental hiccups.
Didn't he fight Madonna? That Madonna fight was pretty good.
Yes.
He fought Madonna. It was a good fight.
First time he quit.
Yeah, but he quit though. That's the thing. He quit though.
Oh man, you guys have a lot more confidence in Victor Ortiz than I do.
I hope he can instill it in you. I hope that's all I can say.
No, but my only problem is that the thing you mentioned to me when you mentioned money and all that, and he took care of his career and he's doing this for himself. I believe that. I believe that he wants to win this for himself. But at the same time, boxing is a sport people get into because they don't have much, and they don't, and when you have it, and you can go home, and I don't know if he has kids, but he can go home to a nice house. He can go to movies if he wants to. He's got all these different venues in order to make dollar signs. If given a decision, you don't want to get punched in the face. You just don't want to. If you got the money and you're sitting there and you get hit with something really hard and you sitting down there on one knee, you can get up, but everything's telling you, what? You're good. You're paid for. You're good for life. You're a millionaire. Most people never see the life you'll ever have. You don't need it, you may not get up.
I think you're right if it's the jaw breaking again. If the jaw breaks again, you're 100% right. But then again, he will be 100% right to stay down, because that's the boxing guys telling him, son, we have your jaw up here and we ain't giving it back. So if that breaks again, done. But if he just has a bloody nose or a cut, Victor Ortiz is remaining in there. I know it. That's in my heart.
I don't know about that.
It's in my heart.
I think you make some good points in the sense that if you have that kind of secondary outlet of you don't have to fight, the hunger isn't as as there as it is for somebody that's all they have. But in this fight, I mean, the biggest difference I see with Berto and Ortiz is that Ortiz throws a lot of punches and he actually works. Berto, of late, he doesn't work. He gets very lethargic, and he doesn't work enough. And so if you're gonna get outworked, I think eventually he's gonna get caught and then it's lights out.
And I think we're going to start shutting the show down on that note, because we've gone really long here. I'm gonna go around the hangout here. Sishu, I believe this may be the first time you've been on here, Scorsese. I'm going to start with you. For folks who want to talk boxing and whatnot, let the folks know where they can find you.
Oh, shoot. I don't even know my Twitter handle, but I'll look it up for you real quick. My Twitter is @lowplacefriend. Just low placing friend. That low place friend, and that's the only place I am. I'm thinking about doing a YouTube, but what I'm about to do right now is buy a Victor Ortiz T-shirt.
First time on the show, Michael Boyce. For folks who want to talk boxing and whatnot, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Hit me up on Mike Money 214 Twitter. Brother Mike, it's an honor being on your show and talking to boxers, to all you wonderful cats out there. We keeping the sport alive. It's definitely an honor being with you guys tonight. One love.
No problem. Hope to have you as well as Scorsese back on the show soon. Jacob Rivera, longtime fan of the show, wrote a great review for me on iTunes. For folks who want to talk boxing and whatnot, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, I want to second that and say thanks, Mike, for having us on. You do a great job, and you know, everybody on here is really knowledgeable, and we can actually talk boxing, and nobody gets their feelings hurt, so that's the best thing for me. And I'll be at the fights, this cheering on Victor Ortiz. Maybe I'll go buy a shirt too. I don't know, but
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be a good night of boxing. They're actually doing a fan expo before. There's going to be a bunch of fighters there sign in, and they have a beer gardens and stuff, so we'll see how that goes. But you can find me on Twitter at JRATM23 and also at jabhookboxing.com. And I want to encourage everybody out there, listen to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, subscribe, give him a review. If you hate the show, give a review. If you like the show, give a review. Just give something. And also a shout out. I did do a podcast this week, a movie podcast with my other second love, and we talked boxing. We talked Raging Bull, When We Were Kings, and I gave Mike a shout out for Pound Boxing Report. So hopefully people listen to that and will come and listen to this show.
Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Hakim Boxing. For folks who want to talk boxing and whatnot, let the folks know where they can hit you up. I hope you not riding around and the cops follow you this time.
No. I've been at home. Trying to get caught by the cops. Still ain't got a real ticket. All I had in my life was fixie tickets. Ain't got no real ticket yet. Thank God. If you want to follow boxing, you can jump on my page. You can talk smack. You can curse. I'm not sensitive when it comes to those type of things. Just don't be racist. Other than that, you can chop it over with me. Tell me I'm wrong. It's all good. Definitely want to give a shout out, to Mike. Thanks for letting me on the show. For all the ladies out there who may be listening, Mike does a lot of stuff for the female fans. Definitely check that out. It's really good. We have a lot more than just men in the sport. Definitely have some more female minds because, fortunately there's some stereotypes out there that are quite ignorant and backwards when it comes to women in sports. But either way, definitely glad you guys listen. You guys have a wonderful night, and go Raiders. Carl Joseph, that's what it is. Pick number 14. You know what it do, baby. All right.
Note of the ladies, hopefully we'll have another edition of the Ladies Love Boxing show of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Ladies Love Boxing episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Hopefully next month. I'm crossing fingers. Hopefully next month. Daniel Carpio, for folks who want to talk boxing, NBA, especially your Miami Heat, who are in a bit of trouble right now. Let the folks know where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Raucus99. I said I do write for the Inscriber Digital Magazine. I want to give a shout out to Robert Kyle, founder of the magazine. He's doing big things with it. And big shout out to Peter Clark, who's also a good boxing writer, does that as well. And like I said, I write boxing and I write NBA, particularly Miami Heat. And I also have, like I said, my own show with the folks at For Boxing News. They were on here today, Joe and Francis. We do it either every Sunday or every Monday. We talk the latest events, which we're obviously going to talk about the Super Middleweight Tournament coming up, and, of course, Canelo Khan coming up next.
I want to thank Gail Falkenthal of Communities Digital News, who joined us earlier. If you want to talk boxing or anything else with her, you can check her out on Twitter at PRO San Diego on Twitter. Also want to thank Francis and Joe from 4Boxing. If you want to talk boxing or anything else with them, you can check them out on Twitter at 4Boxing News, one word, the number 4, Boxing News, one word on Twitter. As well as Jay Dill, who joined us on the show. If you want to talk boxing, he does a lot of talk about not just current boxing, but boxers of the past. You can check him out on Twitter at Life7JO on Twitter. If you want to talk boxing or anything else with me, because I talk just about everything on Twitter, you can check me out on Twitter at BrotherJR. That's what it is, at BrotherJR76. Again, if you want to check out all things Pound for Pound Boxing Report, just go to the blog page, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. Again, just look on the right of the page. You can find links to find us on Facebook, YouTube, G+, Twitter, Tumblr, where to find the Pinterest board, where to check us out, subscribe to us via the RSS feed, as well as where to find us on Stitcher Radio, Flipboard Magazine, SoundCloud, iTunes, as well as the email address, which is p4pboxingrpt@gmail.com. On the next episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report, we will do a recap of Baldu Jack and Lucien Boutte. We'll do a recap of James DeGale, Porky Medina, as well as Victor Ortiz-Berto rematch. We will also do a preview of big fight coming up, Canelo Alvarez fighting Amir Khan. Also, an interesting fight happening in England. Anthony Crolla fighting his mandatory Ismael Barroso. I'm predicting now. I think we will see a new lightweight champion. So we will talk about all those fights as well as all things boxing that may happen in the interim. Again, for Scorsese, for Michael Boyce, for Jacob Rivera, Hakim Boxing, Daniel Carpio, for Gail Falkenthal, Joe and Francis from 4 Boxing, as well as Dilltown. I'm your host, Michael. This has been another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We will see you again soon. Everybody have a good evening. Good night.
Hey.
Good night.